National Intelligence who testified on Capitol Hill today. And at the state opening of Parliament, the British government pledged to grow the economy, reduce debt and cut taxes. There's much more from us at featurestory.com. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Everyone needs to get a justice shed. So you have a place to throw that little juvenile delinquent you caught loitering out on the street corner. This is not rocket science, people. I just call up my neighbors, Frank and Terry. We get out there with baseball bats, fishing nets, and we knock that suspect out. And we toss him in our justice shed. We just start dealing out some shovel beatings. That's democracy, people. That's the biggest benefit of the justice shed, people. You are in charge.
Our justice shed was all filled up, so we created this justice cage. It's just as good. These guys, I think we caught them shoplifting, and this is my daughter's boyfriend.
Look, if you don't have a yard big enough to place a justice shed in, go out and get yourself a justice barrel. I don't care. The important thing is to take control of your safety by any means necessary.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. You can join us. Dial in here at 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Aria.
603-283-6160. We've got open phones as always. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. We got more of the situation that continues to just get more awful in China. Out in Shanghai, there's another story about the people who are trapped outside. We've talked about the people who are trapped inside their homes. What about the apparently thousands of people who aren't allowed to go back home? And I'm not talking about the people that are trapped inside the factories, because we talked about them recently as well. It's a completely separate group of people. They cannot go back indoors, and we will explain what that's all about.
I mean, that's pretty horrifying.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, luckily it's not freezing cold there right now, but we'll continue with that coverage when we get a chance. But we're going to focus here at home, here in the United States, where CPI index numbers are not quite out yet, but some are saying they think it's going to actually be down for the month of April. We'll see about that tomorrow. But meanwhile, gas prices are definitely not down. Aria, you and I both had that story tonight. But first, we're going to go to Sam. He is on the line in Ohio. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I just saw one of your other co-hosts bring in a topic recently about how they're using, like, pea to make fertilizer, and I thought it was interesting to see that the media is actually finally acknowledging that food price inflation is a thing.
Certainly, you're referring to the story that Richie Rich brought in Sunday night, which is essentially that there is a widespread fertilizer shortage. And people can counter that with human urine. That was the essence of the article, right?
Yes.
Okay. So your point is what?
That whatever media source that was, I don't remember where he got it from. They're finally admitting that food inflation is a thing versus the CPI always tries to hide food inflation.
I think you're referring to price increases, which is commonly the term inflation is used to describe that, but it's ultimately inflation is an increase in the money supply, and then prices tend to go up as a result. I haven't seen the media ignoring
no, they've been talking about it for years, and this was part of the issue that I had with the story that we discussed Sunday night, which was, when the immigration crackdown began, they told us that, fields were drying up and dying in California because there weren't enough immigrants to tend them and stuff like that. And none of that ever really affected us. And then we heard the same thing last year with Tyson having to slaughter millions of pigs because of no competition agreements and stuff like that. And I mean, there was a little bit of a pork shortage for a while, but it wasn't anything severe. Americans throw away massive amounts of food.
For sure.
I don't think we're going to be anywhere near an actual food shortage for a very long time.
And this isn't Venezuela at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like the inflation is bad, but it's not 50% bad.
I think a lot of what we're hearing about food shortages and all of this stuff, I think it's just fear-mongering from people who don't realize that, instead of just instead of going hungry, Americans will just throw away less food. They'll start saving their leftovers a little bit better and actually eating those instead of, cooking a fresh second meal.
Yeah, as long as people are still able to go out and eat, then it's not that bad. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can afford to go out to dinner, you're still okay. If you have to meet, go ahead.
But my thought being that, that'll cause the inflation number to eventually turn to 20% from things like that.
Well, I mean, it may or may not. Like you said, Sam, they do have their ways of keeping the inflation numbers down. They have ways of manipulating those things. And people who have been paying attention to the price of food in a lot of cases know that those numbers do not represent what they're seeing when they're paying at checkout. It's higher than ever. I mean,
that's the issue with the fertilizer thing, though, is that they can't recuperate that cost by increasing the cost of food for whatever reason. It is too spread out or something. I don't know, but they allege that it was not cost that they could recover by just increasing the price.
I don't understand that.
I don't either, but that was what the article said.
Sam, thanks for the call tonight, man. Appreciate it. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. I don't want to make it sound like this is no big deal. I mean, just because I'm saying people aren't going to starve doesn't mean that it's not incredibly difficult for people who are just on the, if you're barely getting the bills paid, if you are barely keeping the power on at your home for whatever reason, that's the economic circumstance that you're in, a 10% increase at the grocery store is going to mean serious decisions will have to be made about, whether you can continue buying chicken or, beef or whatever, and instead have to go to all ramen or something desperate like that. So people are having to deal with this, and then at the same time to have higher gas prices that they're also dealing with. I mean, the government is putting the pressure on the American people in a way that it hasn't done in our lifetimes. I mean, it's certainly true. I'm not going to go back and say, oh, this is worse than the Great Depression, because it isn't, right? But and I don't know how soon it could get to that point, given the amount of wealth that exists in the United States. To some extent, we can coast on that, but the government continues to print money hand over fist. I mean, it's not going to get better. Even though they're going to tout supposedly tomorrow, ooh, inflation's down from 8.5% to 8.1%. That's what the leaks are saying it's going to be. That's still nothing to celebrate. It's probably more about manipulating the data than it is about any actual lowering of the money printing going on.
I tend to think most Americans won't fall for it, or they'll hear these numbers of like, okay, yeah, that's great, but gas prices are at a record high and grocery shelves are still empty. It doesn't matter how great your economic numbers are if there's nothing on the store shelves. And again, there's plenty on the store shelves, and there will be for quite some time.
Not as much as there was.
Right. But there's still plenty.
I did note that there was more milk in the milk section of Market Basket this week than previous weeks. But in previous weeks, it's been slim pickings. So it kind of comes and goes in waves. At least
I'm not saying it won't suck for people who really enjoy milk or whatever. Yeah. And there's no milk on the shelves. I'm not saying that's not going to be unpleasant.
Yep.
But I don't want to say they can get powdered milk because I know that's no real substitute. But they can get powdered milk.
Yeah, and there we went and looked at this. There's like a new kind of butcher shop that opened up here in Keene recently, and Bonnie and I went over there today.
I'd heard about that.
Yeah, it's in the neighborhood. Now, the sad part of the story is it replaced a business that had been around for 2.5 decades that died during COVID. So that's the place, the physical location that it took over. But we just wanted to go and check it out. And, it's what you might expect. It's a fairly high-end kind of, you're buying local meats and you're paying twice as much.
But it's local.
But it is local, yeah. So, we decided to try some local chicken or whatever. But I pointed out to Bonnie, I'm like, this thing's at least 2 times what you would pay for a chicken. And chicken prices are up, right? Like, you're paying way more for chicken. You're not getting 99 cent a pound chicken right now. You're paying at Market Basket, which for listeners that don't know, Market Basket's like a discount retailer. Basically, they're one of those retailers that's good at cutting costs and keeping prices low. We were there looking at chicken the other day; it's $4.99 a pound. at the major retailer. I remember, not too long ago.
Is this like Tyson chicken that's like
no, this is
pumped
the
with
market basket
hormones
one.
and stuff? Okay.
Yeah, this is wherever they get their chicken from, which I don't think is Tyson.
But, no, it's probably not. It's probably something that isn't. It's somewhere between your local place that gets all local meat and, one of these industrialized mega farms like Tyson. There's probably something in between.
Yeah. So, I mean, but $4.99 a pound, that's high. Compared to just a few years ago, you could easily, regular price chicken was $2.99 a pound, and then you could get it on sale for even less. So there's definitely been a huge increase in prices at even the lowest price discount grocers. So people have to deal with that. We're going to talk about the gas prices, though, coming up here, because they are at a record high. And, it's not really newsworthy when gas prices keep hitting record highs. So at some point, we're going to get tired of seeing this story. But it is still worth pointing out because they're not going in the other direction.
No, it's surprising that gas prices are hitting a record high again after, cash is stronger than ever is what they're telling us, right?
Yeah, the dollar is so strong right now. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Of course, Bitcoin still at around $31,000, so it's having a tough time right now, although it's still higher than it was 2 years ago for sure. More coming up. This is Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
The way I do psychic readings is a little bit different. I read the veins of your penis, and I could tell your future.
That is a new one.
Is this a hands-on procedure?
Yeah. Well,
does it come with a happy ending?
Or no, guys, I'm a businessman. Right? I'm very professional. I'll tell you why I think he arrested me. I told him, I said, I can see right here that your life's going to be very short. He got upset and arrested me.
So he thought that you were making a comment about his size.
Yeah,
is what
the size of his. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Look here, I'm only interested in the veins, and I'm very professional.
Now, where did you learn this technique?
My dad.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us here talking about the economy. Gas prices hitting new record highs in the United States. Although, apparently not if you adjust for inflation. So, that's worth mentioning. We'll get into that on the way here. The number 603-283-6160. Tonight, it's Ian
and Arya.
We're going to continue with your calls and thoughts. Don't forget, you can join us online anytime you want over at freetalklive.com. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com. Cryptocurrency may be, quote-unquote, down when you compare to...
I heard it was dead.
When you compare to record highs in late November, it's certainly down by 50%, but it's still way up compared to where it started, which was at nothing 13 years ago. So if you want to learn about crypto like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, get over to Bitcoin.com and click Get Started right there at the top of the page, and you'll get some introductory videos. This is a technology that is going to be with us for a long time. Not every cryptocurrency is going to be with us forever. Looking at you, Terra and UST, which I had been very excited about in recent months, seeing that this concept of an algorithmic stable coin, meaning that it's a dollar-based coin that's not actually backed by dollars, which was kind of a cool idea. Well, looks like it's on what's called a death spiral as we speak. So.
It does sound like I remember Nubits was never actually a dollar tether. It was pegged to the dollar, and it stayed at $1 or $1.01 for a very long time, but they never promoted. They were never like, this is totally a dollar peg, because they didn't want that liability or whatever. I don't know why they never claimed it, but then it went down, and then it just kept going down. And it was useful back in the day, like if you knew that Bitcoin was going to go down or whatever, you flip into new bits.
Yeah, that's the use of a stable coin, is to trade without actually touching the actual dollar. So there's a lot we can talk about with the economy, but that's what Stephen wants to talk about in Georgia. You're on Free Talk Live, Stephen.
Hey, so I want to talk about the gentleman before was talking about food prices. I want to kind of comment on that because it's really scary the way that food prices work right now. A lot of what we do is called future contracts. So restaurants are actually not able to write future contracts anymore, but it used to be like a year or two ago that you would agree with your vendor, hey, we're going to buy at least this much chicken every week, and this is going to be the price.
Okay.
Right? And that was the agreement. It was a one-year contract. And then the vendor would agree on price per chicken 1 year at a time, right? Like they're going to buy the chickens and they're going to kill the chickens and slaughter the chickens, but they're going to have a cost that they're going to pay.
Right.
And this goes all the way back, like wherever the cycle begins, it goes all the way there. With produce, it goes back to a chemical compound called urea, right, which is fertilizer. Well, that chemical compound is really important right now because Russia controls most of the urea in the world. And so
it sounds like a silly business plan to sell your chicken basically for the next 365 days at a certain price. I mean, what if half the chickens in the United States get bird flu and die or whatever? Suddenly your chicken is a whole lot more valuable, but you can't charge more because you're locked into this contract. That sounds like a system that was primed to fail from the beginning. As soon as there was any sort of economic hardship, that's a bad business plan.
It was really popular for restaurants, right? So restaurants would say, hey, we're going to buy at least this much chicken. Now, here's where they make their money. Most restaurants don't last a year. 68% of restaurants don't make it 1 year. 90% of restaurants don't make it 5 years. And so in there's a clause that says, hey, even if you don't last, you still owe us X amount of dollars. You can either buy the chicken or not, but we're getting X amount of dollars from you.
They can't squeeze money out of a business that no longer exists, though. I mean, if the business goes under...
True, if they're bankrupt, you're not getting that money. That's a good point.
You can't squeeze blood out of a turnip, as they say.
But you're going to get their ovens and stuff, and that was part of their business model for a while.
I see.
Yeah.
Taking the assets, liquidating them, and then getting whatever you can.
Sounds kind of exploitative. So, I'm not sad to hear that this model is going away.
Well, I guess the benefit to the business, and I know nobody has talked about this in the past, not in the area of restaurants, but just generally the concept of what's called a futures contract. And I guess the benefit of to the business is they're locking in a certain price, right? So that way they know they're going to get chicken at X price for the next 365 days. That's the benefit to them, and they know that's a guarantee because it's contractual.
Well, what do they care? They can just increase the prices that they're charging on the menu.
I guess that's what they want for whatever reason. What do you think, Stephen? Why do businesses care so much about that?
So I'll say this, and there's a bigger thing I want to get to, but to answer your question, if you want to lose your customer base at a restaurant, go ahead and print new menus. Every
month.
Well, they're not even doing that. There's an article today on the Drudge Report about how restaurants are now using stickers to get around that.
Yeah, well, Bonnie and I went to a popular restaurant in New Hampshire. It's a chain called Red Arrow. It's a 24-hour diner. Generally cheap food, right? You're in a diner. It's pretty good stuff, great selection, 24 hours. You can't beat that. But I noticed on their menu that it was updated in November, and then I noticed on their menu that it was updated in April. So it's been updated twice in the last 6 months. So yeah, restaurants are definitely increasing their rates, because even if they locked in their chicken contract, they may not have everything else locked in, especially what they have to pay people and all that.
Yeah, like the Indian place here in Keene that takes cryptocurrency, they got rid of their menus. They don't even tell you what the prices are anymore.
It's just whatever you order, he tells you what the...
Yeah, because the price changes constantly.
Right.
So, I mean, there's no benefit in printing out a menu saying this is how much this costs if you're going to have to print the entire menu again a few days later.
Yeah, I get your point, though, Stephen. You're saying restaurant regulars expect a certain price, and they may their business may dry up if the price starts going up. That's what you're saying.
Well, and we've talked about this in the past. What are the consequences of this? Is the wait staff is getting stiffed, right? Because people aren't paying attention to it all the time, and so they go, "Hey, this costs when we go out, it costs $50, so we're going to leave $70 on the table, and the rest is the tip, right?" And when the plates become $60 and you leave $70, now the tip just went down $10.
Got cut in half, yeah.
And so that's one of the things that's happening. But part of the reason that I'm so concerned about this is as the future contracts start to just stop, what's going to happen is urea is going to go up on a daily basis, right? It's a fertilizer. It's a common fertilizer. It's globally used. It's going to go up. Well, when it goes up, all produce goes up, right? And so what I think we're going to see very shortly is we're going to see maybe digital price tags. Like you walk into Walmart and instead of there being a sticker, there's a little digital display, because they're not going to be able to sell you green beans at a certain price every day. I remember for a while, for like 2 or 3 years, you could buy a can of green beans for 50 cents. And then all of a sudden it spiked up to 62 cents. And you go, that's 12 cents. No, it's 24%. Right? What is going on that there's a 24% increase at once? And I think we're just going to see more and more of this until...
Digital price tag seems like a no-brainer in a world where inflation is constant. Thank you for the call tonight. In fact, I believe Kohl's, the clothing store, they've got digital price tags, and they've had them for years. So they're ready for this. There's more coming up here in moments. You can join us, 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
I guess the answer is that I would reverse the permaban.
Elon Musk announcing that once his purchase of Twitter is complete, he plans to allow former US President Donald Trump to return to the social media platform. Speaking at a conference hosted by the Financial Times, he called Twitter's decision to ban the former president a mistake, morally wrong and flat out stupid.
My opinion, and Jack Dorsey, I want to be clear, shares this opinion, is that we should not have permabans.
With more from FSN's Washington bureau, Nick Harper.
There had already been questions about what Musk's plans to promote free speech on Twitter would mean. Now a tangible answer: the potential return of Donald Trump. He was removed from the social media site following the January 6th riots, with Twitter saying Trump's comments could incite further violence. Trump had around 88 million followers before his removal.
The White House said today that as a private company, it's up to Twitter to determine who can and cannot post on the platform. The US is bracing for a long conflict in Ukraine, according to President Biden's Director of National Intelligence. Avril Haines was testifying on Capitol Hill and said the US still believes Vladimir Putin's territorial aspirations go beyond eastern Ukraine.
And the Russians met with more resistance from Ukraine than they expected, and their own military's performance revealed a number of significant internal challenges, forcing them to adjust their initial military objectives, fall back from Kyiv, and focus on the Donbass. The next month or two of fighting will be significant as the Russians attempt to reinvigorate their efforts, but even if they are successful, we are not confident that the fight in the Donbass will effectively end the war. We assess President Putin is preparing for a prolonged conflict in Ukraine, during which he still intends to achieve goals beyond the Donbass.
The UN said today the civilian death toll in Ukraine may be many thousands higher than the official current number of nearly 3,400. And Ukraine's first post-Soviet president, Leonid Kravchuk, died today at the age of 88, a communist who negotiated away the country's nuclear stockpile after the Soviet Union collapsed. The British government has pledged to grow the economy, reduce debt and cut taxes. Prince Charles made the traditional Queen's speech today at the state opening of Parliament, laying out the government's agenda for the coming session.
Her Majesty's ministers will bring forward an energy bill to deliver the transition to cheaper, cleaner and more secure energy.
Mobility issues prevented the 96-year-old monarch from attending. It's the first Queen's speech she's missed since 1963. Celebrity chef Mario Batali has been acquitted of sexual misconduct on the second day of his trial in Boston. The judge in the case said Batali's accuser had significant credibility issues. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Yep, it's Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us right here. 603-283-6160. We're talking about the money situation, the economy, and
well, we're talking about the fertilizer thing, and that's got me curious because I've been hearing about it. We heard about it all Sunday night, and then twice tonight people have called in to talk about it. It's this supposed fertilizer shortage as a result of Russia. None of the numbers that I'm finding substantiate that argument. It sounds like it's just fear. It's a way of continuing to blame Russia and Putin for an issue that
Putin
the United
price
States.
Hike.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. I'm looking at the numbers here. The The United States is the second leading country in production of urea, which is ammonium nitrate fertilizer, apparently. Russia's number 4 with about 70% of the amount of production that the U.S. has. However, the U.S. is... So I was like, how much does the U.S. actually import from Russia? And Russia isn't even in the top 15. Okay. However, so what is the maybe it's other countries that are using Russian fertilizer, and we're importing food from them. So where does the U.S. get its food? Primarily from the United States, also from Canada, Mexico,
South
France,
America.
Italy, Singapore, Thailand, United Kingdom, China, Brazil. Yeah. And then there's another category that's probably about 25%.
We're not getting food from Europe.
No. And it's 163 countries, presumably Russia somewhere in there. So it just doesn't look to me like the United States is getting any of its food or any of its fertilizer from Russia.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like fear-mongering.
In any meaningful capacity. So it's...
But that's not to say prices aren't going to go up, as we're talking about with gas prices hitting record raw number highs, according to CNN.
I mean, that'll drive up the price of food because that food has to be delivered.
Correct. It'll drive up the price of everything. And of course, the price of everything is going to go up because the government continues to print money into the money supply. The national average price for regular gasoline climbed more than 4 cents to $4.37 a gallon. This was on Tuesday, which knocks out the prior record set in early March of $4.33. The gas spike, which is up 17 cents in the last week alone, will only add to inflationary pressures that have raised recession fears, rocked financial markets, and soured Americans' views on the economy. Then they just go on, of course, to blame Russia, pointing out that pump prices are up 25% since the invasion. But again, prices were going up since before the invasion, so there's no reason to believe that that actually had any significant effect on this.
No, there's every reason to believe that it didn't. I mean, it hit a peak, it hit a high, and then it went down. The invasion was ongoing during all of that, during its little dip there when it got down to a whole $4.09 per gallon or whatever it was at. And now it's at a new time high. The invasion didn't leave and then come back, No,
it was ongoing.
So it's clearly not related to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It's clearly related to something else.
Although they do point out here, and I'm glad they mentioned this, that gas prices after you adjust for inflation would need to climb above $5.30 per gallon to break the record set in 2008, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. And that's certainly doable. I mean, it's less than $1 away from where it currently is, so it could happen.
You know what really amazes me about inflation is that things adjusted by inflation, that's old-timey stuff. Like we look at, how much did a house cost in 1963 and how much is that adjusted for inflation today? And we look at it in this larger scale of like across 40 years or 50 years or even 30 years or whatever. But I watched a video today where it was ranking, different gaming consoles in history, and they got to the PlayStation Portable, which released 15 years ago or something like that, and adjusted for inflation, that's almost 30% more than what it cost when it initially debuted. It's just in that brief span of time, the actual cost of this good adjusted for inflation is up 30-something% just within 10 or 15 years.
Just to clarify what you're talking about here, you're saying you were looking at an article about video game systems comparing the original marked price when they came out
to what they would cost today if it was adjusted for inflation.
I see. Okay.
And it was about, video games being more expensive and stuff like that. Yeah. The article was like, well, really, it's not that bad. They've always been sort of expensive once you adjust for inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the point of it. And the PlayStation Portable was just one of the examples they used that got my attention because I remember when that
what
first
was it
came
when
out.
It came out?
I don't recall now. I think it was $199.
Okay.
And now it's $270. I don't remember the exact numbers now because, it was an article with 15 different examples of consoles and games and stuff. I don't remember all of it, but something
Which is kind of a dumb thing to point out because that product would not come out now, right? That's a low quality device now compared to what is released today. So I'm not sure it's a strange point to make. It's like the PlayStation Portable isn't going to come out now. What they can do is they can look at the current systems that are out today, and you can say, oh, well, what's a PlayStation 5 cost? I hear they're hard to get, but if you were to pay whatever the retail manufacturers suggest,
that's exactly it. You're not going to find it on the the suggested retail price. You got to
Let's
go
take
on
one
eBay.
you can find. Look at the Switch, the Nintendo Switch. You know what?
Even those are kind of hard to find.
Well, whatever. Well, let's presume you can get a damn video game system. And
It's important though because the lack of supply makes the price, the
Go up
actual
in the-
real price, go up.
Yeah, it does in the secondary market for sure.
Like
But they
sure, it's $299 at Walmart, but if you actually want a Nintendo Switch,
you got to go online, and you know, I get what you're saying there, but whatever the manufacturer's suggested price is what I'm talking about. So if a Switch is $299 bucks today, you go back and you look and see, oh well, you know, what was the Nintendo 64, you know, when it came out, and then you can adjust that for inflation. And I guess that's the point they're trying to make, is $299 for a new system today is cheaper than it would have been if back in the past or whatever. I guess
it was pretty much along those lines. Yeah. But it just amazed me that, you know, we're talking about the PlayStation Portable, the PSP, which isn't old technology, and in order to really understand the number of how much it cost back then, we have to adjust it for inflation to put it in today's dollars.
Yeah.
But today's dollars are just like 15 years into the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't normally hear adjusting for inflation on that scale of something on the lines of, well, 10 years ago, you know, if you adjust the price of milk for inflation, it's like, but that's just 10 years ago. Is inflation really so out of control?
Yes.
I know.
Yeah, it is.
But people aren't realizing that. They're not stopping to consider, wait a minute, adjusting for inflation is stuff that we do about things that were sold, you know, 50 years ago.
Let's go to the phones. I got Mark on the line here. Mark Edge is on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about inflation. And I call in, and there you guys are talking about inflation.
Well, it's a common discussion these days because it's affecting absolutely everybody, so it's a good topic for us.
Yeah, the inflation I wanted to talk about specifically was petroleum. It just costs so much more at the pump than it did a couple of years ago. And, you know, like maybe we can blame it on Joe Biden, maybe we can't. I don't really know, and I don't really care. I do know that I've got to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty bad. And I can control the amount of time that I'm getting in a car. But, you know, one thing I was thinking of was those heating prices up in New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire doesn't have, for those who live up north, New Hampshire doesn't have many gas lines, right? And not where the Free Talk Live studios are. And we heat with oil, which is basically
there's actually a gas line running into this studio.
Is there?
Is there? When did that happen?
It's been here forever. There's natural gas lines all throughout Keene. There's a company called NH Gas. I think they changed their name to Liberty Utilities a few years ago. That's how the water gets heated here at the house.
I bet you're wishing your furnace was running on that stuff these days.
No, that's gone up.
Is it? Natural gas is a lot more too?
Yeah. We've got a propane furnace now here. The old one got replaced a couple years ago.
Well, I hope propane's not going.
Nothing's going to get cheaper, dude.
No, I see where you're going though. Like I have to I use heating oil at my house, which is basically kerosene or diesel. I don't know. They're apparently all very similar. Right. And you know, the minimum oil delivery is 100 gallons with most of these places, and usually that's like, okay, $300. That's not horrible. $500. $500 minimum delivery.
Hold your thoughts here, Mark. We're going to bring you back in moments. The number is 603-283-6160. Yeah, it doesn't matter what fuel we're talking about. I mean, there's no reason why any of them are going to stay put as far as their prices are concerned, because it's the money printing that's the real problem here. It's not Putin. It's right at the old Federal Reserve and the U.S. federal government. That's where this problem starts. There's more coming up here. You can join us. It's Free Talk Live.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring silence to their rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait on account. Now. Wait a minute.
Holy road. Whoa.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Why are you running from me? Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this?
Bureaucrats Democrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Arya.
We're talking about gas prices at, once again, a new record high. A previous record high was set in early March, right around the beginning of the whole Ukraine invasion situation, and since then kind of dived down a little bit, and now it's back up again to a new record high. And you can join the show. The number is 603-283-6160. We got Mark Edge on the line here. Mark is back with us. You were commenting on the situation. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just specifically commenting on the price of fuel just going up and up and up, and how much it costs to homes in places that use oil heat, like in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, it is getting excessive. I just want to stress that again. It's $500 per oil delivery. That's the minimum that a person can get delivered. And
it was $300 last year.
Right.
Yeah.
And generally 100 gallons, it lasts me about 3 weeks. Some people may get more out of it, but in my place, it lasts about 3 weeks. So, and I've had to get 2 oil shipments within the last, month or so. So $1,000 right off the bat, and that's bare minimum.
Yeah.
It's obscene. That's an almost 100% price increase in real terms. It feels like a 100% price increase.
Now, Mark, this affects people in not just New Hampshire, but everywhere that uses gas. Don't a lot of the islands use gas-powered generators?
And that's one of the things that I was going to go to is that they're using diesel generators on a lot of islands, but the electric company is regulated in most places. So, in fact, what's happening in a lot of places is instead of the prices going up, because they can't, the government has come in to save us, they're just having outages. They're like, oh, well, power's not working. Sorry. And
thanks, government.
Right.
I'd rather pay an increased price instead of just not having any heating oil, for sure.
Yep. It's one of those situations where you got to kind of pick your poison. And it's suboptimal, but they'll never say that on these islands that in fact it's the oil prices that are doing it. So this is what I'm guessing. This is that when I hear about power outages on different islands that I keep tabs on, it's because they the power's gone up.
Mm-hmm.
So I also wanted to talk about the claim that Mark Edge is poaching free staters for his.
I think there was a caller who suggested that a few nights ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And although I do understand what they're talking about, right? Like I was part of the Free State Project for many, many years, and I know the sort of team spirit that goes along with it. I'm certainly guilty of it at some point, and this is actually why I call in and say, hey, there's other ideas out there that might work besides the Free State Project. And
the Free State Project, for listeners that don't know, is a migration of libertarian activists to New Hampshire. It has been going on for roughly 2 decades at this point. I just wanted to make sure clear what you were talking about.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's because I've seen so many, and I can't even give you a percentage. My rough guess is half of the people who have moved for the Free State Project have left within 5 years. Now, obviously, that wouldn't include the people who have come within the last 5 years. It's just a rough guess.
Some people are starting to come back. Russell Canning, from what I understand, recently returned to New Hampshire, and he was one of the earliest movers here back in the good old days in 2004 and 2005.
It does feel that way, Mark. I haven't been here as long as you or Ian have. Well, I guess at this point you're no longer really here, but I haven't been here as long as you and Ian have. But a lot of the stories I hear about, different things in the Liberty Movement is like people who did move here and then they moved away.
Yeah, that's happened. Your roommate did that, as a matter of fact.
I was thinking about the movies that there have been, Libertopia, about the Free State Project. There's been a few of them, and it seems like almost everybody included in a movie about the Free State Project is gone. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Matt Simon. He was in a movie. But I mean, the majority of these people that were dedicated enough to get on film and say, hey, I'm moving to the Free State Project. They've gone. And
Will Buchanan is still in New Hampshire, and there was a movie about him. You mentioned Libertopia, I believe, covered his walk across America, where he walked from Oregon to New Hampshire. He still lives here. He's still active in the State House.
Yeah. Derek J's victimless crime spree. Derek J has fled the state.
Well, I mean, that had to do with the federal government investigating him, I believe. I mean, I've not confirmed that with him, but... So, I mean, that's a bit of a different situation than somebody that just gets burned out or whatever.
Yeah, to be fair, if I had woke up at March the 16th and I had seen, the other Crypto 5 had been arrested, the very first thing I would have done was bought tickets to get the hell out.
There you go. And so...
But that wouldn't make sense for most people.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, if you guys are successful and somehow you put the government on the run with your court case, well, do they come back and arrest more people in order to drive them out of the Free State Project? I don't know. At this point, I laughed at the people who said that they were going to roll tanks into New Hampshire to stop us, Free Staters, when in fact they did roll a tank into my studio. So I don't know what the truth is and what falsehoods are anymore, because in fact the federal government rolled tanks into the Free Talk Live studio. So if somebody fled the state over that, then I guess that's a legitimate reason to have fled.
Good point.
All I'm trying to say when I'm saying it is that I think that the right people to move to New Hampshire are the right people to move to New Hampshire, and that many people have left. So therefore, somehow the marketing that we were doing was to some of the wrong people to move to New Hampshire. And all I want to do is help the right people move to New Hampshire and help the wrong people not to move to New Hampshire. Because I imagine it is a very demoralizing and expensive mistake to pick up and move your life for whatever reason one might go to New Hampshire for more liberty and then have it not work out the way you want. Now, there are people that moved and then moved away that probably say, this is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I'm glad I did it. But there are probably other people that don't feel that way. And so what I'm trying to do isn't to poach. And by the way, that term is highly charged. It's suggesting that you own the activists to the Free State that have moved to the Free State Project. But the idea that I'm trying to poach people, I almost never mention my project when I call in to sort of critique something about the FSP.
I don't. I think if we listened to your calls for the last 6 months or whatever, we would find out that anytime you called in to mention the FSP, you simultaneously promoted one of your projects.
Well, we might bring it up. So I don't know. I don't know how that all shakes out. But ultimately, what you're bringing up is just people have different lives, and some people may have left New Hampshire out of some level of disappointment. I mean, we know one guy, David Jurist, had a whole bunch of sour grapes on the way out the door and made a whole bunch of noise about it. But a lot of people, they leave because they had some sort of family issue, mom got sick or something happened where they felt like they needed to go back home to family for whatever reason. Some people left for love. They found somebody that they fell in love with and moved out of the state. Others moved for a career. So every individual has their own story and their own path. Many of them say they're going to come back. Now, of course, we only know if that's true when they actually do come back, but a lot of them do say that for whatever that's worth. And it is a large movement where thousands of people have migrated. We cannot realistically expect them all to stay in one place. So, I mean, ultimately, we've got thousands of people who are here now, and they're doing amazing work that no one else anywhere in the liberty movement on the planet is able to pull off. I mean, we've got dozens of people in the state legislature here. There have been amazing civil disobedience wins. There's nothing out there that can even compete with the Free State Project.
I don't know about things that can't compete. There are places right now that are freer than the Free State Project likely will ever be. And they didn't have to work for it because they managed to contract for it. Now, whether they'll maintain it or not, I don't know. But what I can tell you is Croydon, one of the most successful towns in New Hampshire, just voted nearly unanimously for more big government.
Well, that's not true. It wasn't unanimous. It was, the fact is the opposition in Croydon, you're talking about the school board vote that happened over the weekend where the statists came out
like 2 votes
and
against?
Dominated. You don't understand what happened, Mark, but I'll explain it here. We'll talk about it coming up here in moments, and Mark is welcome to stay. He's definitely a negative Nancy when it comes to New Hampshire, only looks at the downsides. And we'll continue here in moments. The number 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values?
Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
I guess the answer is that I would reverse the perma-ban.
Elon Musk announcing that once his purchase of Twitter is complete, he plans to allow former US President Donald Trump to return to the social media platform. Speaking at a conference hosted by the Financial Times, he called Twitter's decision to ban the former president a mistake, morally wrong and flat out stupid.
My opinion, and Jack Dorsey, I want to be clear, shares this opinion, is that we should not have perma-bans.
With more from FSN's Washington bureau, Nick Harper.
There had already been questions about what Musk's plans to promote free speech on Twitter would mean. Now a tangible answer: the potential return of Donald Trump. He was removed from the social media site following the January 6th riots, with Twitter saying Trump's comments could incite further violence. Trump had around 88 million followers before his removal.
The White House said today that as a private company, it's up to Twitter to determine who can and cannot post on the platform. The US is bracing for a long conflict in Ukraine, according to President Biden's Director of National Intelligence. Avril Haines was testifying on Capitol Hill and said the US still believes Vladimir Putin's territorial aspirations go beyond eastern Ukraine.
And the Russians met with more resistance from Ukraine than they expected, and their own military's performance revealed a number of significant internal challenges, forcing them to adjust their initial military objectives, fall back from Kyiv, and focus on the Donbass. The next month or two of fighting will be significant as the Russians attempt to reinvigorate their efforts, but even if they are successful, we are not confident that the fight in the Donbass will effectively end the war. We assess President Putin is preparing for a prolonged conflict in Ukraine, during which he still intends to achieve goals beyond the Donbass.
The UN said today the civilian death toll in Ukraine may be many thousands higher than the official current number of nearly 3,400. And Ukraine's first post-Soviet president, Leonid Kravchuk, died today at the age of 88, a communist who negotiated away the country's nuclear stockpile after the Soviet Union collapsed. The British government has pledged to grow the economy, reduce debt and cut taxes. Prince Charles made the traditional Queen's speech today at the state opening of Parliament, laying out the government's agenda for the coming session.
Her Majesty's ministers will bring forward an energy bill to deliver the transition to cheaper, cleaner and more secure energy.
Mobility issues prevented the 96-year-old monarch from attending. It's the first Queen's speech she's missed since 1963. Celebrity chef Mario Batali has been acquitted of sexual misconduct on the second day of his trial in Boston. The judge in the case said Batali's accuser had significant credibility issues. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. What to make of Monday's speech by Russian President Vladimir Putin as he addressed that Victory Day parade in Moscow commemorating the end of World War II. Speculation in Western capitals had certainly run rife in recent weeks, with President Biden reaching out to G7 allies over the weekend, seeming to brace himself for some kind of big announcement by the Russian leader. But it did not come. There was no formal declaration of war against Ukraine, no general mobilization of all men of fighting age in Russia.
It's possibly that there's a reality check going on in the Kremlin.
Dr. Shane O'Rourke is a senior lecturer in modern history at the University of York.
Compared to the how animated he was before the war actually began, I thought today was very low key, actually. There were none of the big announcements that were being touted beforehand about a mobilization, a war until final victory. Of course, no surprise that it was all the West's fault. It was the NATO was about to attack Russia. The usual stuff that's a sort of standard of Putin's propaganda. But overall, as I said, I thought it was very low key.
Foreign policy and intelligence analysts will now be poring over the speech and video of it in an effort to try and gauge the Russian leader's mood, as well as his physical and mental state of health. The main news again, Elon Musk says when his purchase of Twitter is complete, he will allow former US President Donald Trump back on the platform. The US is bracing for a long conflict in Ukraine, according to President Biden's Director of National Intelligence, who testified on Capitol Hill today. And at the state opening of Parliament, the British government pledged to grow the economy, reduce debt and cut taxes. There's much more from us at featurestory.com. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Welcome back to the War for the White House bunker. A troubling new report from the Shuttleworth Institute shows that due to Facebook, every potential candidate for the 2040 presidential race, no matter how smart or accomplished, is now completely unelectable. I'm standing in the 2012 Democrat with Jason Copeland. Jason, walk us through this.
Yeah, we're looking at really a political crisis. The Democrats are currently searching basements and creepy backyard sheds in search of somebody who was kidnapped at a young enough age that they have no online presence.
That is a very interesting tactic.
And the GOP has been looking at this young man. This is a 20-year-old Jeeves Jones. He's currently living in Appalachia with his fundamentalist Christian grandmother and no electricity.
So Jeeves has no Facebook page?
Jeeves does not. In fact, he's completely illiterate. And the Republican Party has begun grooming him for a possible candidacy in 2036.
All right. Well, at least there's someone. Thank you, Jason Copeland.
Thanks, Andrea.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can join us right here. Bring up whatever's on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Aria.
Of course, you can bring up anything. That's the point of the program here. We are going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts, though. We do have with us Mark Edge. He's a co-host here on Free Talk Live. He's been traveling around the world for the last roughly half a decade and searching for the freest place, at least, to his beliefs. And he's found the idea of a certain zone, an economic freedom zone, basically, that some business people have cut a deal with, in this case, the government of Honduras. But these exist in other parts of the world. But he's most interested in the Honduran ones, where they cut this deal, and then supposedly they get to set the rules. There's like no taxes, basically. There's no regulations. And
it's like Disney World.
And like Disney World.
I mean that literally. I realize this sounds sarcastic, but that's pretty much the agreement they had with Disney.
Disney World is a good example of a special economic zone here in the United States. And like Disney World, our biggest critique of this, of course, is that it could be swept out from underneath this organization. And in fact, recently, the Honduran government abolished, or at least indicated that they intend to abolish, with a unanimous vote, the idea of the special economic zone. However, it's not completed until they vote on it a second time, sometime in 2023. But that said, Mark, you were calling to address what a caller had said about you the other night. last week sometime, they said that you were trying to quote unquote poach Free Staters, that is to say, libertarian activists that have moved to New Hampshire or might be considering a move or planning a move to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project, which is the world's largest and most successful, despite all of the negatives that you're pointing out, is the most successful political migration for libertarians that has ever existed. But
it's the most successful in getting people to move there. That's true.
It's also the most successful libertarian movement anywhere on the planet, in that if you just look at political successes, let alone the massive civil disobedience events that we've had here and such, if you just look at political successes, no other libertarian movement anywhere has come close. The Libertarian Party in 50 years has not even done a fraction of what the libertarians here in New Hampshire have accomplished.
Well, that's a very U.S.-centric look at things, and I've tried to deviate from that because I can tell you
the libertarian parties and elsewhere in the world are also pretty useless as well. So I mean, we've definitely done better than they have.
Libertarians in Honduras did propose this special autonomous zone, this upgrade to the special economic zone, and they got it passed through legislatively. That's a political, by the way that I count politics, that's a political win. And that zone is more, I mean, it has its own civil law, its own police. It's able to exclude the local police from their zone, and they can have their own arbitration. They can basically run their own town. They're sovereign.
But yet you chose not to join it.
I don't have the option of joining it at this time.
Why not?
What do you mean I chose not to join it?
Well, okay, I presume you're talking about the Prospera, which is located on
There's two of them.
Okay.
There's two of them. One is Prospera.hn. The other one is Morazan.city. Right. And, they're at this point, we don't know what's going to happen in Honduras in the future. But then again, you don't know what's going to happen in New Hampshire.
But you're building your own project on a different island entirely. And I'm pointing out here that despite all of the supposed freedoms of Prospera, you chose not to join that particular setup. Is it just a personal disagreement with the founder?
I don't have a personal disagreement with the founder, no. I am.
Then why would you move to a smaller population island when you could be on an island with 20,000 people? Instead, you chose one with 3,000.
I felt like the culture of the island of Utila was far superior to that of Roatan.
Okay.
There was an opportunity for sort of a fast start, in so much as there was a resort that had a small amount of rooms, but a large amount of land, large enough to, at some point or another, perhaps if things looked right, be autonomous in its own right. But today that doesn't look that way. And a business person has to decide what's right now, as well as what's right in the future.
Okay.
So the other thing wasn't right for you because of the culture of the island. Isn't the Roatan Island, I mean, you've told me about it in the past, you used to be very excited about it. Isn't it a pirate island? Doesn't it have a lot of pirate history? A lot of English speakers are around there, and what was wrong with it?
Yeah, the pirates hung out in the Bay Islands generally, and there's really, as far as, look, I think that it's just like spreading seeds. Mm-hmm. You got to try a bunch of different things, and one of them might take. I don't know, and I hope Prospera is wildly successful. And I hope that if they are wildly successful, I can hitch my wagon to them.
But Mark, you used to have a farm. You know that's not the way farming works. You don't just plant a bunch of seeds and then walk away and hope for the best.
You got to tend them.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So, there's different farming practices on different farms. I hope the farming practices on Prospera work.
But you're saying you can't even move there if you wanted to. There's not any actual places for sale, no places to build?
There's places for sale, but there aren't currently places. Well, I'm not allowed to announce anything that is beyond that. But there are no places to live at this time, as I understand it, according to what I've seen from Prospera.
So this is a pretty speculative thing, right? Like whoever gets into this special economic zone is getting in on the ground floor. They're going to have to build a house. They're going to have to build a business, a warehouse or whatever it is.
No, at Morazan.city, you can go to Morazan.city right now, and we're renting out units at Morazan. I'm involved in that too. because I think that these are just the best idea. I want to be involved in each one of these projects. And
now, this is the one that's on the mainland of Honduras.
Yeah, this is where you're not going to be living with other libertarians. You're going to be living with a bunch of Honduran textile workers, right?
Well, I don't know whether that's true or not. At this point, the Honduran textile workers really haven't moved in, and nobody feels real solid because of the Honduran government voting to get rid of ZEDEs. So what I'm doing is I've managed to get 5 units rented to libertarians.
Really?
People that care about this stuff.
Do these units exist?
People in.
Yeah,
I told you over and over again. Yeah. Yes, this isn't for rich people. These aren't palatial things skyscraping above the slums of Choloma. These are units for $200 per month, furnished in in a.
It's a heck of a price. I mean, you're gonna
but isn't it like the size and of a your typical truck trailer?
It's an apartment, right? A small apartment.
It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. As far as square footage goes, I guess it was something like 700 square feet.
That's a great deal. I mean, compared to anything you can get in the United States, that's amazing. If somebody can work from home.
But how is it compared to places that you can rent in the Honduras?
It's compatible generally. I mean, mostly you get shacks for that price in Honduras, and this is a brand new build.
This is new construction on what is a gated community essentially, right? There's security in
highly gated, yes. 3-meter wall. Mm-hmm. So
now, of course, you still have to leave in order to go shopping in the city or whatever. So it's like
you can pay somebody to do it for you, and labor's so cheap in that area that they'll just take a list from everybody, and then they'll deliver your groceries back to you.
But you had expressed to me.
But I would agree. I think that's the number one thing that's wrong with Choloma. Please give me an opportunity to point it out. Is that Honduras 5 years ago? This area of Honduras was the kidnap capital of the world, and I'm not talking about kidnapping rich Americans. But of course they would. I'm talking about somebody's abuela just getting picked up. Hey, you got $500 to get your grandma back? That kind of kidnapping. Now, mind you, it's dropped off dramatically. The police are, addressing it, and they're much better trained than they were. But, I wouldn't take my FTL crew there out drinking and carousing in the bars of Choloma. By God, no. No, I wouldn't.
There's more coming up here in moments, and so there's obviously ups and downs to everywhere in the world, right? Like, we've got the federal government here, and they suck.
You won't get kidnapped in New Hampshire.
No, I'm not worried about getting kidnapped on my way home from a bar here in New Hampshire.
Well, the federal government is more likely to kidnap you here. It's a totally different gang. There's more coming up. This is Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open right here. The number is 603-283-6160. Ian and Arya in the studio tonight. We started out talking about financial difficulties, and there's more to come on that. We touched on the gas prices, but we got two competing stories. Arya, you've got a story about saying for millions of Americans, tens of millions of Americans apparently, it's the best times ever.
Yeah, I mean, just ask Mark. Everything's going great. There's nothing bad going on. All you have to do is, live internationally, buy a house in the Honduras or Mexico or the Cayman Islands or what was it, the Marianas Islands.
Yeah,
everything's fine. It's really not that bad. All you have to do is, be rich.
Well, I don't know if that's what he's saying.
That's not what Mark is saying, no. But that's more or less what these people are saying. They're like, hey, look, if things aren't so bad for those people who are employed.
We'll get into it coming up. Also, over half of Americans are saying they're worried about their standard of living, so we'll talk about both of those stories on the way here. But Mark Edge is still with us, calling from, I don't even get where you're calling from. Where are you tonight, Mark? Oh, did we lose him? Oh, he's gone. I didn't even notice. He dropped out of the Jitsi call. So I guess he said all he needed to say.
I'm done here. My job is done.
Yeah, to the point that he was trying, I wish he was still on the line because there were a few other things I would have said to him, but I'll say them now anyway, is that he does come across to some people listening as though he's trying to recruit people to his project, which is fine. I don't think there's a certain segment of people that living abroad and being wealthy enough to do that they're out there.
Sure.
And there's...
And I mean, if you can pay $200 a month in rent for, a 2-bedroom apartment,
you don't need to be wealthy in that case.
And you can make $200 a month plus online, and you got to figure groceries are probably significantly cheaper there in the Honduras or whatever.
Possibly, yeah.
You can probably live reasonably comfortably
for
there.
$1,000 a month, easy. Yeah, no doubt. And so that's one side of it, right? Living in the Morazan city, you can live relatively cheaply. Living over on Mark's Resort Island, probably not so cheap in that particular case. But the world now has more people working from home than ever before, right? So during the whole COVID situation, that was one of the positives that came out of it, was that a lot of people who had never worked from home were able to work from home, and it turned out they liked it. And it turned out some businesses thought it was a productive thing, so they kept it. So there's definitely more people that can do this sort of digital nomad lifestyle than ever before. So maybe it is time for these things to these special economic zone projects to rise to some prominence and have some success. And I hope it does. I don't wish it anything bad. I think it's great. Mark believes that this is his calling from God to move forward with this project and make one a success. And I hope it does work out. I don't think it's right for a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to live on an island.
Well, this is equally true in New Hampshire, though, and I think this is where the disconnect is happening with Mark. Mark seems to think that we don't talk about the disadvantages of living in New Hampshire when how cold it is like right up
it's
there.
It's obvious.
Yeah, but the primary disadvantages of living in New Hampshire, there's a government and all this other stuff. I mean, that's anywhere in the United States. Right. We're not inviting people to move here from, some free country where there's relatively no government because the government's so poor or whatever, it can't really impede on their rights. We're trying to get people from the United States who already have to deal with more or less the same problems that they're going to have to deal with in New Hampshire.
Right. Mark talks a lot about the people who shouldn't, quote unquote, move to New Hampshire. And if you believe in liberty and you are an activist, and you want to be with the #1 activist libertarian community, there is nowhere else on the planet that you should be besides New Hampshire. If you want to live on an island and be left alone, allegedly, we don't know if that's actually going to transpire, but in Mark's vision, they would be left alone by the government, and you can afford to live that lifestyle, and that's the way you want to live, you should do that. You should move there. But if you want to see a place that is already arguably the freest on the planet, because if you look at New Hampshire, it's the #1 freest of all the 50 states, and there's no real breakout to compare it to the rest of the world, because when you look at economic freedom indexes, they only compare nation states. They don't look at the U.S. states individually on those charts, so we can't say 100% for sure that if New Hampshire were broken away from all the other states that it would be #1 in the world, but I think it would. I think there's a good chance of that. It certainly would be in the top 5.
It seems very likely that it would be.
Yeah, because we wouldn't be weighed down by California and New York and all these other states that are bringing the average down, right? Those things bring the average of the United States freedom rankings down way far. So if you actually do care about liberty and you are an activist and you want to be with more libertarian people in a real community that's been around for decades, there's no other place to go. There is no other option for you. You can stay right where you are and live the life you're currently living under whatever tyranny you're living and continue to complain about liberty, or you can pick up your life and move somewhere and do something about it. And this is the place where you can do that.
It seems like a no-brainer to me. I mean, sure, there are advantages to everywhere. There's disadvantages to everywhere, and there's certainly some disadvantages to New Hampshire, but that big one, we sort of gloss over Morizada City and the possibility of getting kidnapped on your way home from a bar. That's not inconsequential to the average person trying to raise a family. That's a pretty big deal.
Right. How many people want to live the rest of their lives in a walled city and never leave?
Right.
Because that's what Mark
you can pay someone to go get your groceries and stuff like great. So I can be a prisoner, an effective prisoner,
a voluntary prisoner.
Yeah, with the walls, 3-meter high walls around me and everything, full on prison. Let's put some razor wire up there while we're at it. That doesn't sound free to me.
No, it doesn't sound very like a life that I would want to necessarily live. So New Hampshire does have a problem with government. I mean, it does exist. The idea of the state is still alive and well here, as the Croydon vote that he mentioned pointed out. Oh, and I guess I didn't get to tell the rest of the story with Croydon. So I said I was going to and then completely forgot about it. So Croydon school board vote, they voted to cut the budget in half earlier this year. Big deal, right? Like, it made a lot of headlines. And then the status found a loophole. They said, well, if we can get half the voters to turn out to a special meeting that we call, then we can re-vote on the thing that was already voted on. So it wasn't a done deal. And they did get enough people to show up at that meeting. And Mark was correct. The vote was like 300-something to 2. But that's because the opposition's plot was to not show up at the meeting. They were literally telling the people in the opposition was literally telling people to not show up. And the idea behind that was that if they didn't show up.
When you say the opposition, I assume you mean the people who were against the numbers being cut, because that was how it worked out. They cut it in half, and it was the guy came in with a sales pitch, and he had all the numbers and the graphs and the stuff to demonstrate it, and it looked great.
Yeah.
But then, the statists were galvanized by that. Like, we can't let this happen to our schools.
Big time.
So they found some loophole, as you said, that allowed them to have this emergency meeting. Did the libertarians, the free staters, did they even know about this emergency meeting? It sounds
absolutely.
They did?
That's what I was saying. The opposition to the statists, the free staters and the liberty people, their opposition tactic was do not show up at this meeting. And the idea was if enough people, they had to have at least half the voters show up to even make the meeting happen. So the idea was if not half the voters showed up, then the meeting wouldn't even happen, the vote wouldn't have even happened. And so that's why only 2 people were there on their side. There's way more than 2 people that wanted to cut the budget, but they all stayed home on purpose. So that's why. But still, more than half of the voters did come out, and they did vote overwhelmingly to restore the full, insane $18,000 per student budget. There's more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
I guess the answer is that I would reverse the permaban.
Elon Musk announcing that once his purchase of Twitter is complete, he plans to allow former US President Donald Trump to return to the social media platform. Speaking at a conference hosted by the Financial Times, he called Twitter's decision to ban the former president a mistake, morally wrong and flat out stupid.
My opinion, and Jack Dorsey, I want to be clear, shares this opinion, is that we should not have permabans.
With more from FSN's Washington bureau, Nick Harper.
There had already been questions about what Musk's plans to promote free speech on Twitter would mean. Now a tangible answer: the potential return of Donald Trump. He was removed from the social media site following the January 6th riots, with Twitter saying Trump's comments could incite further violence. Trump had around 88 million followers before his removal.
The White House said today that as a private company, it's up to Twitter to determine who can and cannot post on the platform. The US is bracing for a long conflict in Ukraine, according to President Biden's Director of National Intelligence. Avril Haines was testifying on Capitol Hill and said the US still believes Vladimir Putin's territorial aspirations go beyond eastern Ukraine.
And the Russians met with more resistance from Ukraine than they expected, and their own military's performance revealed a number of significant internal challenges, forcing them to adjust their initial military objectives, fall back from Kyiv, and focus on the Donbass. The next month or two of fighting will be significant as the Russians attempt to reinvigorate their efforts, but even if they are successful, we are not confident that the fight in the Donbass will effectively end the war. We assess President Putin is preparing for a prolonged conflict in Ukraine, during which he still intends to achieve goals beyond the Donbass.
The UN said today the civilian death toll in Ukraine may be many thousands higher than the official current number of nearly 3,400. And Ukraine's first post-Soviet president, Leonid Kravchuk, died today at the age of 88, a communist who negotiated away the country's nuclear stockpile after the Soviet Union collapsed. The British government has pledged to grow the economy, reduce debt and cut taxes. Prince Charles made the traditional Queen's speech today at the state opening of Parliament, laying out the government's agenda for the coming session.
Her Majesty's ministers will bring forward an energy bill to deliver the transition to cheaper, cleaner and more secure energy.
Mobility issues prevented the 96-year-old monarch from attending. It's the first Queen's speech she's missed since 1963. Celebrity chef Mario Batali has been acquitted of sexual misconduct on the second day of his trial in Boston. The judge in the case said Batali's accuser had significant credibility issues. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSM.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. You're invited if you want to join the show. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, Ian here.
And Arya.
And you can join us online anytime you want. Head over to freetalklive.com. We've got a social media platform for you at social.freetalklive.com. That's where you can go and interact with other Free Talk Live listeners. It's available for you all day, every day, and it's free, unlike, I don't know, some talk show websites where they charge you for things like that.
I mean, it's unlike most social media, right? Ours is free. We're not serving ads.
That's true, yeah.
We're not using trackers to find out, how should we be advertising things to people.
No, there's no data mining going on here.
Ours is actually completely free.
It's a great way to point out that. Thank you, Aria. The numbers or the website is social.freetalklive.com, and there are apps available, multiple apps for different operating systems if you prefer to have an app rather than just use your web browser for the experience at social.freetalklive.com. So we talked about the Croydon vote. It was definitely bad, right? Like the statists came out in huge numbers, and they proved that they're still alive and well and paying attention. And they took back and they repassed the school budget to where it's now, instead of $9,000 a student, $18,000 per student is what they're doing, and it's
that
absolutely
seems excessive.
Insane. Yeah, it's insane. Private schools in the area are like $7,000 to $8,000.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, I mean, private schools have to be efficient. They can't be these bloated governmental monstrosities that have limitless amounts of money to spend.
But they're so much better too. Right, it's
also
$7,000 or so $1,000, and you get probably way better, 2-3 times the educational quality, maybe 10 times the educational quality at a private school than at a government school. But regardless, unfortunately, they didn't succeed. But no one said this was going to be an easy road. And to Mark's point about, the federal government rolled a tank into my studio. Yeah. You weren't here, but that's true. That is what they did, and it sucks. There's no doubt about it, but no one should come into an activism movement where the express goal is to end the state and think that they're just going to sit on their thumbs the whole time as, we have success after success.
I agree. I mean, we always knew there was going to be pushback, and I feel like that's something that gets overlooked in libertarian circles. If you're effective as an activist against the state, I mean, let's not...
And libertarians aren't in everywhere else except for New Hampshire.
Right. And let's not mince words here, though. We're libertarians. We oppose the state. We want to one degree or another. I'm going to include the monarchists and the classical liberals here, even though I would argue they're classical liberals and monarchists, but whatever. We want to dismantle the state. We want to severely, drastically, or entirely reduce its power to zero. And we know what people do when you start threatening to take their power away. They lash out. They go crazy. Yeah. That's what we're trying.
Violent.
We're actively trying to do that to this organization that is defined by its use of violence against people. I think everyone who goes in to fight that particular war, the ideological war of peace against violence, of peace against aggression, rather, needs to know that, it doesn't matter how peaceful you are. You can be Gandhi if you want. If you're effective enough, the state will use violence against you.
They beat the hell out of Gandhi's followers, as a matter of fact, over the issue of salt.
That's right, yeah.
Multiple times.
Wars, yeah.
Those people suffered brutal beatings at the hands of the British and the Indian soldiers.
I mean, they killed Martin Luther King Jr., right?
Yes, they did.
He was completely peaceful as well. Yeah. There's a long history of peaceful activists who... Jesus is yet another example. Yeah. If you make the state angry, the powers that be angry, they're going to use that power against you.
You're giving great examples out of history. I don't want to make it sound like I'm looking to be a martyr or that you're looking to be a martyr. That's not what this is about.
No, it's just realistically, if you're effective, that's what's going to happen.
That's what happens. And we are one of the most visible aspects of the whole New Hampshire freedom migration. We're on the radio 7 nights a week talking about the success stories. We're one of the biggest beacons and recruiters for getting people to come here to this movement, which is, as we pointed out, the most successful libertarian movement on the planet. The feds can ignore the libertarians everywhere else because they're not even worth talking about.
They're really not.
They don't do anything that's successful. They have no political power. They're a sideshow, okay? And no one pays attention to them anywhere. But here, the libertarians are a threat. The Democrats are constantly attacking the libertarians, the Free State Project. They're having seminars about us. They're putting advertisements out there. Granite State Progress, which is one of the George Soros-funded activist groups for the leftists here in New Hampshire, have been following and obsessed with the Free Staters for most of the last decade. They're putting up bus stop advertisements, advertising a podcast that they've created to talk about what the Free Staters are doing.
Nice.
Basically.
And I mean, the Republicans, to be fair, aren't any happier about this than the Democrats are.
Well, they're getting their party taken over, and they're not happy about that.
They're grinning because, for the first time in a long time, the Republicans are actually getting talked about, and there's actually people attending their meetings and stuff like that. But the reality is that then they end up with the tranny anarchist running, and they go, "Oh,
they don't like that.
Wait, this is not what we had in mind when we agree. You were supposed to be all straight, cis, white, old men. What happened here?"
The political establishment, both right and left, is not happy about the Free Staters here. And the federal government isn't happy either. And they've been...
No, why would they be?
And they've been investigating... I mean, Mark acts like this was some kind of big surprise, but the fact is they've been investigating the liberty activists here in New Hampshire, specifically in Keene, since as far back as 2005. The very same federal agent, Phil Christiana, has been investigating this group of activists for longer than I've even lived here in New Hampshire. So this predates me, but I'm one of the more visible characters. And so, of course, he took an interest in me in this show and has been quite obsessed with us for many, many years. And so they made their move, and that's what you have to expect them to do. They're not just going to sit around as people are spreading the idea of independence from their power, as people are spreading the idea of peace against their wars.
When was it that they tried to get Rich Paul or nobody to wear a wire?
2012.
Okay, so long before the studio here was raided or the property here was even raided.
They were trying to infiltrate
and trumped up charges. Yeah, they were literally trying to get somewhere to wear a wire into the studio or into the activist center and get them to say that they were advocating violence or aggression or revolution or something that wasn't even true.
Nope.
But they wanted to find a reason, any reason, to press charges or to trump up charges against the libertarian activists here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, and it's not going to stop with us. Regardless of whatever it is that happens to Free Talk Live, and obviously we're hoping for total victory later this year in court, but regardless of what happens to us, the movement is going to continue. There are going to be continually migrating people coming here and getting active in various different ways, and some of them are going to raise their profile, and some of them are going to become targeted as well by the federal government. And that's a reality. And it's not fun. Right, like that's not what I'm. That's not
it
what
kind of sucks.
No, that's It's.
I want to get back to spreading peace and the ideas of love and liberty.
I want to get back to being able to tell people about cryptocurrency and actually show them how to use crypto by demonstrating it for them, which I cannot do at this time. I can only just talk about it. And obviously, we're good at talking. That's why we're on talk radio, but we still can't do as much as we were previously able to do because of these bail restrictions that are on us. So yeah, I'm with you as well, Arya. I'm looking forward to getting rid of these things. But I know that even if it's not us, they're going to be going after somebody. They're investigating somebody else out there right now. There's no doubt about it. And they are just waiting until they can build a case, whatever BS trumped up charges they're going to build against whoever else they're not going to give up on this.
No,
this is their thing.
And I tend to think, optimistically, the best thing that could happen here is, November comes and everything is just fine afterward. Mm-hmm. But they're going to find, the next people they hit are going to take the plea deals. And then they're just going to add to those statistics, and they're just going to make it look like more and more of a failure when it's not a failure. It's just it's exactly what one would expect if one comes into this realistically, which is if you push against the federal government, they're going to push back. And if you're successful, they're going to try to break your arms.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my intention to push against them. I just want them to leave me alone. But just spreading the message of, hey, let's ignore them and walk away from this relationship, it's going to make the abuser angry. And the abuser is going to beat you if they can get a hold of you. And we're right here, and they know where we are, so they can get a hold of us. There's more coming up here in moments. Free Talk Live.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths, and I want yours to be as clean as possible with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Phones open if you want to join the show. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
And Aria.
We will talk to you about whatever's on your mind. We've been talking, in the first hour we started talking about the economic situation, gas prices, inflation, and there's a few more things to talk about when it comes to the economy. But then Mark called in to bring up the Free State Project, and that led us into that conversation. Of course, you're welcome to comment on anything. Let's go to Sarah in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live with Ian and Aria.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to bring up, did you know that today was the Salvation Army Day?
What does that mean?
Well, I never knew they had a Salvation Army Day until they announced it this morning. So it's this a yearly thing that they have this day after the Mother's Day. So I guess.
But what does it mean? Is it their anniversary or something, or what?
Well, they're just celebrating all the great work that, Salvation Army have done to help millions of people ever since it got formed. So I think it's that,
Okay.
It is indeed Salvation Army Day, but I'm not finding what that really means. News.messenger.com, which appears to be a very Christian site, just says it's observed annually on March the 10th. That would not be today. That would be 2 months ago. So, it is observed annually on March the 10th, according to checkiday.com, which tells you, what
various days there are assigned today.
March 10th is Salvation Army Day, not May the 10th.
I just want to say, I think generally the Salvation Army does good work. I know they are a very religious organization, so if you're not a fan of organized religion, and I tend not to be a fan of the big religions generally. I mean, that's not to say I'm a-religious. I am religious, but I just don't like the big organized religions. They that said, they do help people in need. They do help the homeless, and they provide meals, and they provide socks and clothing and things like that. And they've been around and been doing that mission for a very, very long time. Unlike the government that just deprives people of wealth, the Salvation Army is helping raise people up. So good for them.
And I don't remember now, but if I recall correctly, the Salvation Army is one of these charity organizations that is not a scam and that does not have extremely highly paid CEOs and board members that are, giving.
I would be surprised if they did, yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of them, like UNICEF and others, are like that, where they're like
That's the UN.
Yeah, we're like 5 cents of the dollar that you donate actually goes there. But Sarah, as it happens, today is Clean Your Room Day. It's also National Small Business Day. I don't want to trigger you with you being a communist and all of that. So it's also Sex Differences in Health Awareness Day. So, I mean, and it goes on here. There are dozens and dozens of these. It's Trust Your Intuition Day. What the hell is that?
Every day should be Trust Your Intuition Day.
Well, but it was announced on the KKOB. Maybe they switched the date. You know what I mean?
No,
I don't know.
Sarah, you totally misunderstood what Aria was saying. She says that today is Salvation Army Day. You are correct.
No, March the 10th is.
That's today.
No, today's May the 10th.
Oh, March the... Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a typo. Mm-hmm.
The point is that there's a bunch of days, quote unquote, on the same day, and you can pick whichever one you want. If one sounds better than the other, if you need something to celebrate, there's something out there that'll probably fit you on any given day of the week.
Yeah, check iday.com.
Is it just iDay, or is it the word check iDay? I'm sorry, not clear what you're saying.
It's the word check, the letter I, and then the word day.
Check iDay.
Yeah, I don't know why they would call it that. They have a little button there that says today's holidays. You click that, and it'll tell you all of the holidays.
Dozens.
Tomorrow is Donate a Day's Wages to Charity Day. This is good news. It's Eat What You Want Day as well.
But you know what?
Hostess Cupcake Day, too. So.
Also.
What a garbage world we live in, man. It's National Root Canal Appreciation Day. Tomorrow is National Root Canal Appreciation Day.
Wow.
That's terrifying.
You know what I like, though? I like the Bicycle Day.
Why does there have to be a day for these things? I mean,
What is
Yeah,
bicycle
the
day?
Canadians started that. You know, like ride your bicycle to work day.
But
They
if you
came
like
back,
a
don't drive your
bicycle,
car
why don't you ride
day.
the bicycle every damn day?
Well, but it's all about like raising awareness.
Does it
That's
really,
the whole
though?
point. Like, well, the thing is, you can ride a bicycle
For
every day.
everybody
Look,
that
I don't
doesn't
even
know
have
they
a
can get a
car.
bicycle, like are people out
No,
there
but it's the
unaware that they
whole-
exist?
What's a bicycle?
But it's an acknowledgement, celebration of no. Everybody stop! Don't ride a car. Don't drive a car today. Everybody's going to ride a bike to work. This
Do you
is
need a pat on the back for riding a bike?
Apparently.
Is that what this is all about? You want someone to pat you and say, you're doing such a good thing for the world by riding a bike today?
Well, it's the same thing as the Earth Day. It's all to
Yeah, it is this
celebrate
feel-good stuff.
the Earth Day. The environmental activists come out and they read about being a vegetarian and doing organic farming, and so it just raises awareness. Same thing with the Right to Bike Work Day, and isn't there some other day like that? What other environmental
There's a ton of that
days?
stuff.
I'm not convinced that's what people are doing on April the 20th, Sarah.
Thanks for the call, Sarah. The number, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Is that Earth Day? Is the 20th
I'm
of
pretty
April?
sure April the 20th it was. Yeah, and it sort of became, a different holiday.
Checkiday.com. Wow. Insane.
Oh, evidently Earth Day changes. It was April 22nd this year.
National Shrimp Day today.
Actually, it's apparently always April 22nd, so I was just mistaken. Yeah, National Shrimp Day, National Lupus Day as well.
Oh.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow, though. No, National Hostess Cupcake Day.
International Receptionist Day tomorrow. National Twilight Zone Day.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Wow.
I mean, people just make this crap up and they go, this is the national holiday.
Yeah.
And there's no form for people to fill out. They just start saying it and they
And somehow
create a
it gets out there.
hashtag and other people share it. And the next thing you know, it's National Twilight Zone Day.
Yeah, I guess if it helps you do a thing, then have yourself a day. The number's 603-283-6160.
She shouldn't be riding a bike on this one particular day. Like, what would it help? It wouldn't do any good for me on National Ride a Bike Day. And there seems to be some dispute about what day it actually is. Like, they can't agree. But even if they did agree, it's not changing the world for me to go, oh, it's National Ride a Bike Day. Instead of driving my car, I'm going to ride a bike on this one day out of the year. That's not changing anything. That's not changing anyone's hearts and minds. It's not accomplishing anything.
Plus, and I don't know if it really raises that much awareness. Like, there's a person who is likely to ride a bike, and then there are the people that aren't. And I guess the idea is, well, let's encourage the people that aren't bike riders to ride a bike. And I don't think that if you live in a city in which bike riding is essentially not useful, like when I used to live in Sarasota, Florida, I never rode a bike. I didn't have a bike, except when I was a kid, right?
Right.
And as an adult, I didn't have a bike. And there would be no reason for me to have a bike. Everything was too far away from where I lived.
Sure.
There's shopping centers everywhere, but it's still like this urban sprawl, and everything's just spread out, and you got to travel a long distance to get to places generally.
Well, even if it's only like 3 miles and it's just like a 20-minute bike ride or whatever, coming back with like 5 bags of clothing or whatever on a bicycle, I looked into getting a bicycle recently because I was like, this would be a great way to exercise my dog. So you can just run beside me and I can just ride a bike. $800 is what these things are running, though. And it's like,
they're not cheap if you want to get a good bike. There's no doubt about that. But in a town like Keene, you can actually use a bike. When I moved to Keene, I got a bike pretty much right away. And back then it was only like $300. Or $350 or something like that. But I put money in over the years in repairs and that sort of thing. So I probably spent $800 on it over the last 15 years that I've had it. But it's useful because I can go pretty much anywhere in town on a bike. Now I don't use it for groceries because I still have a car and I can still drive the car to whatever I need to grocery. But if I need to just go to court or if I need to go someplace where normally I'd have to pay to park, go out to eat or something like that, I'll ride the bike if I can. And get a little bit of exercise. It just depends on your circumstances in life. If you're in a city where it just doesn't make sense to ride a bike, no amount of promotion of the idea is going to get people on board with it unless they were looking for some new form of exercise. That's it.
I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That in a nutshell, it'd be like having a national jogging day or a national walking day or whatever. It's like I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
And Keene is highly walkable, but it's it's just not going to attract people to get out there and start walking if they don't already have an interest in doing it. And you don't need to make people aware that, hey, did you know you can use your own two legs to propel yourself from one location to the other? We're raising awareness about that. It's this new thing.
Yeah. Have you heard of this thing called a bicycle? The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Hour 3 is on the way. We still have this dueling articles, one about how Americans have it great, and another one saying Americans are pretty concerned for their financial future. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
I guess the answer is that I would reverse the permaban.
Elon Musk announcing that once his purchase of Twitter is complete, he plans to allow former US President Donald Trump to return to the social media platform. Speaking at a conference hosted by the Financial Times, he called Twitter's decision to ban the former president a mistake, morally wrong and flat out stupid.
My opinion, and Jack Dorsey, I want to be clear, shares this opinion, is that we should not have permabans.
With more from FSN's Washington bureau, Nick Harper.
There had already been questions about what Musk's plans to promote free speech on Twitter would mean. Now a tangible answer: the potential return of Donald Trump. He was removed from the social media site following the January 6th riots, with Twitter saying Trump's comments could incite further violence. Trump had around 88 million followers before his removal.
The White House said today that as a private company, it's up to Twitter to determine who can and cannot post on the platform. The US is bracing for a long conflict in Ukraine, according to President Biden's Director of National Intelligence. Avril Haines was testifying on Capitol Hill and said the US still believes Vladimir Putin's territorial aspirations go beyond eastern Ukraine.
And the Russians met with more resistance from Ukraine than they expected, and their own military's performance revealed a number of significant internal challenges, forcing them to adjust their initial military objectives, fall back from Kyiv, and focus on the Donbass. The next month or two of fighting will be significant as the Russians attempt to reinvigorate their efforts, but even if they are successful, we are not confident that the fight in the Donbass will effectively end the war. We assess President Putin is preparing for a prolonged conflict in Ukraine, during which he still intends to achieve goals beyond the Donbass.
The UN said today the civilian death toll in Ukraine may be many thousands higher than the official current number of nearly 3,400. And Ukraine's first post-Soviet president, Leonid Kravchuk, died today at the age of 88, a communist who negotiated away away the country's nuclear stockpile after the Soviet Union collapsed. The British government has pledged to grow the economy, reduce debt and cut taxes. Prince Charles made the traditional Queen's speech today at the state opening of Parliament, laying out the government's agenda for the coming session.
Her Majesty's ministers will bring forward an energy bill to deliver the transition to cheaper, cleaner and more secure energy.
Mobility issues prevented the 96-year-old monarch from attending. It's the first Queen's speech she's missed since 1963. Celebrity chef Mario Batali has been acquitted of sexual misconduct on the second day of his trial in Boston. The judge in the case said Batali's accuser had significant credibility issues. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. What to make of Monday's speech by Russian President Vladimir Putin as he addressed that Victory Day parade in Moscow commemorating the end of World War II. Speculation in Western capitals had certainly run rife in recent weeks, with President Biden reaching out to G7 allies over the weekend, seeming to brace himself for some kind of big announcement by the Russian leader. But it did not come. There was no formal declaration of war against Ukraine, no general mobilization of all men of fighting age in Russia.
It's possibly that there's a reality check going on in the Kremlin.
Dr. Shane O'Rourke is a senior lecturer in modern history at the University of York.
Compared to the how animated he was before the war actually began, I thought today was very low key, actually. There were none of the big announcements that were being touted beforehand about a mobilization, a war until final victory. Of course, no surprise that it was all the West's fault. It was the NATO was about to attack Russia. The usual stuff that's a sort of standard of Putin's propaganda. But overall, as I said, I thought it was very low key.
Foreign policy and intelligence analysts will now be poring over the speech and video of it in an effort to try and gauge the Russian leader's mood, as well as his physical and mental state of health. The main news again, Elon Musk says when his purchase of Twitter is complete, he will allow former US President Donald Trump back on the platform. The US is bracing for a long conflict in Ukraine, according to President Biden's Director of National Intelligence, who testified on Capitol Hill today. And at the state opening of Parliament, the British government pledged to grow the economy, reduce debt and cut taxes. There's much more from us at featurestory.com. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
This is the Onion Week in Review. Thousands of outraged meth addicts urged the federal government this week to address the nation's growing spider epidemic. During a marathon 72-hour meeting under the Roosevelt Bridge Monday, tweakers from across the nation drafted a 45,000-word proposal to kill all the acid-shooting spiders before they develop the powers of mind control or, God forbid, flight.
We can't grow the spiders any longer. The government has to... There's a spider here!
The addicts have agreed that the best temporary solution would be for the government to issue them large quantities of methamphetamine and steel wool. A local daddy was put in his bye-bye box Tuesday so that he could go on a long vacation with the birds and clouds in the sky. The daddy, who was once tall and strong and liked going to the hospital to play with their fun machines, was reportedly put in the bye-bye box after weeks of being sleepy all the time and never finishing his din-din. Family had come in from all over to watch daddy get dropped inside a cool underground fort full of dirt and sand, where he'll be tonight instead of being home to play Chutes and Ladders.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here. You can bring up whatever you want. Kicking off the third hour. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And Aria.
We are going back to your phone calls and thoughts, but coming up, we're going to talk a little bit more about the economic situation. One story, Aria, that you have tonight says for tens of millions of Americans, things are great. They're better than they've ever been. But
I tend to think it's, this crazy opinion piece of this guy, of some news outlet trying to convince people that, it's really, it's a good thing. The inflation. It turns out
it's
this
one
is
of
actually
those.
That's my guess.
We'll get into it.
Because
Also,
they're basically like, hey, if you have a job, you're actually doing pretty good.
Well, we'll see, because more than half of Americans, according to a Gallup poll, are either worried or very worried about what's going to happen with them making money, making the bills, paid in the future. We'll get into all of that here when we get a chance. But first, David is on the line listening to WBHP there in Huntsville, Alabama. Go ahead, David.
Hello, gang.
Hey, welcome. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Aria is on my mind all the time.
Oh my.
Something else.
She is something special, that's for sure.
Yes, and the way she says things, literally the words that she chooses, it's literally like I'm saying it myself.
Wow, that's cool.
It's like we're cast from the same mold or something.
Well, you guys are kind of from the same area of the country. I mean, Alabama and Mississippi are next door neighbors.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
So what? Was that all you wanted to do? Was just call and say nice things about Aria, or was there anything else you wanted to say on the radio?
I just wanted to blow some warm air up her skirt and let her know she's got huge fans out here.
All right,
I appreciate it. I mean, it is usually the exact opposite that I hear, but that's usually people on YouTube or Matrix or DLive or whatever
who are hiding behind their computer screens. Right. Yeah, so it's nice to hear from somebody saying that.
I'm a late '60s hippie. I'm the real thing.
Okay.
San Francisco hippie.
Wow.
And when the Bay Area broke out into riots in the late '60s, I migrated over to Hawaii, and then from there I came back to the South. But I just I can't believe it. I mean, well, all you guys, we all have similar feelings and views and things like that. It's quite amazing. I'm so glad that I found your show and listen very often.
Well, great.
And,
we're so glad to be on the air there in Huntsville. It's one of our longest running.
I looked since 2009.
Oh, you checked the affiliate list? I was just about to do that. Yeah, long time radio affiliate there, and it's actually one of the iHeart Media stations, formerly known as Clear Channel. So it's a big station, and we don't have a lot of those big corporate stations that carry us during the week. They're one of the few that carries our weekday show. So, David, thanks. Glad you're out there. And if you get a chance, drop a message to the program director there at WBHP and tell him thanks for airing Free Talk Live, all right?
You betcha. And really, thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Happy to be here. Thanks, David. All right, so the number is 603-283-6160. Richard is in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Richard.
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. First off, now, on a TV commercial currently running for Quit Smoking, they have the daughter of a woman named Terry who passed away several years ago at age 53, and a few months ago they had a Quit Smoking commercial that showed Terry before she passed away.
Oh, boy.
Now, about 1964, the United States Surgeon General had this notice put on cigarette packs.
Mm-hmm.
Caution, cigarette smoking may be hazardous to your health. In 1964, the legal age to buy cigarettes was 18 years old. Therefore, in my opinion, I do not feel sorry for anybody under age 75 who dies from cancer from smoking cigarettes. Maybe I'm cold-hearted, but I don't
You're
have...
saying they
You definitely do not smoke.
I used to smoke. I started smoking when I was 10 years old, off and on, until I was 18 years old. And then I smoked from the time I was 18 until I was 35 years old, and I quit.
Good for you. So what you're saying is people that smoke, they know what they got coming to them. They know that there's going to be some lung troubles that are likely in their future, possibly even death, and you don't feel bad about that. That's what you're saying tonight?
That is what I'm saying. Thank you for putting it in better words than I can.
I don't necessarily disagree.
And you're a former smoker yourself, having just quit in the last 4 months, right?
Right. But everyone is going to die.
Sure. It might be a little more painful, though, if you're coughing up a black lung. It might not be a way you want to go.
I don't think there's really a pleasant way to die except dying in your sleep. I mean, for most people, it's probably not going to be very pleasant, right? Whether you die of lung cancer or skin cancer or breast cancer or prostate cancer or insert disease here, pneumonia, COVID-19, whatever. There aren't very many methods of dying that are like, man, that's the way I want to go.
Thanks, Richard, for the call tonight. Appreciate hearing from you. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160.
So, I mean, I don't feel bad for the people who are going to die of emphysema or lung cancer or whatever, but that's because I know that, they're going to die of something one way or the other.
Yeah.
And
I think my grandfather died of emphysema.
But everyone's going to die. So it's like...
but he was on an oxygen tank toward the end of his life. So, I mean, it's definitely some people have a worse out than others, right?
Certainly.
Like some ways of death are less pleasant than others. And I think Richard's pointing out that, hey, you could avoid this one if you wanted to. And,
you can, but it's
personally,
not easy.
I don't care, right? Like, you do what you want. It's your body. It's your life. I'm not going to judge you for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy. If it wasn't for Chantix, I would definitely still be smoking. The only reason that was successful with me was because I didn't have to actually deal with nicotine withdrawals like most former smokers do.
What is Chantix? It's a pill?
Chantix is a daily pill that you take. You take it leading up to quitting smoking, then you quit smoking, and honestly, you don't even realize that you're not smoking anymore. I mean, it's very strange in how it works. It's extraordinarily effective if you have the mental well-being to withstand it, because it does make people crazy, right? If you're already experiencing lucid dreams...
But if you're already crazy, then you're good to go, right?
If you already have anxiety... Well, if you have anxiety issues or depression, things like that, you probably should avoid Chantix. But if you have like sleep issues, like where you get abducted by aliens or whatever, even if it's just sleep paralysis and night terrors or whatever, that's what Chantix is going to do to you.
It's going to give you night terrors and sleep paralysis?
Yeah, and most people can't mentally handle that. They experience it. They go, oh my God, no, you don't understand. I was actually abducted by demons. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I understand. But this is what that is. You weren't actually abducted by demons, and the Chantix didn't summon demons or whatever. So I've had these discussions with people. It's crazy, right? But that is what Chantix does, and it does help people quit smoking, and it's extremely effective. But I don't blame anyone for trying to fight that fight and losing. I mean, nicotine is one of the most addictive chemicals on earth, and cigarette companies, tobacco companies, for better or worse, and I'm not saying they should or shouldn't be allowed to do this, they are putting stuff in cigarettes to make them more addictive.
Yeah.
This is why a lot of people smoke the more natural ones like Winston's or American Spirit, or they roll their own using Indian Native American tobacco. Those are better alternatives. A lot of people are switching to vaping as well because then they don't have to deal with the nicotine withdrawals. But there's no real medical history behind that. And I've even had a doctor tell me, no, don't quit smoking for vaping because we don't know what vaping is going to do to you. And when you think about it, that makes sense. What is sucking down propylene glycol and vegetable glycol going to do to your lungs over a period of 20 or 30 years?
I don't know, but the few times I've tried nicotine vapes, I've done it a handful of times. I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't feel the same, and it doesn't really scratch the itch. You're quitting smoking without quitting the nicotine, basically.
Cigarettes don't feel good either, but I don't do either of them at this point. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can join us here. You can bring up whatever happens to be on your mind. You can take control of the airwaves. Coming up, Americans reporting that over half of them in a recent Gallup poll are pretty concerned about maintaining their standard of living because inflation is real and it's affecting everyone. It's Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us here, 603-283-6160. Ian and Aria in the studio tonight, 603-283-6160. You can join us online anytime you want over at freetalklive.com. Fork Fest is coming up. It is 6 weeks away at this point.
Yeah, it's getting close, man. And I love this time of year because that's generally what happens. It's like one thing hits, and then it's just one thing after the next, one festival or one party or whatever until like August.
Yeah, before you know it, summer's over. In that
Unfortunately, but I tend to have a lot of fun during the summer.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I hope I'll be able to join you. I still have to wait until the ankle monitor hopefully is removed. We haven't seen the motion been put in for that yet. The prosecution is expected to oppose it. So even though it's standard,
I hope you're there with us.
Yeah, even though it's like apparently it's like the federal probation standard. Like after somebody's been on pre-release for a year on the confinement that I've been on. Probation itself says, okay, well, he doesn't need to be on this thing anymore. But that's what happened. The probation officer that I have went to the prosecution and said that he wanted to take it off, and they said they were going to object, which means that my attorney now has to make the motion, so it has to go in front of a judge. So, that's going to take some number of weeks. So hopefully it'll be off by PorkFest. If not, I'll be staying home again, unfortunately.
I mean,
we'll see.
Knowing how slow the federal court system is, I mean, if it gets in there within like the next week or two,
then it might work.
If the motion gets filed, yeah. But I mean, and I don't know how quick they are to actually see a motion and schedule a hearing. I mean,
usually it's a couple weeks.
Sometimes it can be like the next day, though.
Yeah,
it just
true.
depends on what. I guess it probably depends on whether the defendant wants it or whether the government wants it. Yeah.
All right. So if you want to learn more about our situation, go to thecrypto6.com to learn more about that. Forkfest.party, though, is where you can go, because whether I'm able to go, you should totally go, because it's a great excuse to come up to New Hampshire, check out the Free State Project, check out the beautiful North White Mountains of New Hampshire, which is where the location of Rogers Campground is, and that's where Forkfest happens. It happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and I did hear that the Porcupine Freedom Festival is finally officially sold out. They are no longer selling tickets on their website, so if you want to get PorkFest tickets, you will have to buy them secondhand at this point. And there are some, there's always somebody who bought tickets and then they just can't go.
I've got an extra.
Yeah, it's always situations like that. So,
but I'm not selling it because it's far more likely I'll find someone will be like, man, I wish I had a ticket to the Porcupine for someone I know.
Yeah, that could use it.
And I'm like, sure.
So that's going to be packed. The campground's going to be insane the week prior. But Forkfest is a lot slower. It's a little more laid back. Not as many people go. It's a newer event. It's only the 6th year of it. So go to forkfest.party if you want to just chill out for a week in the woods. And then it wraps up with an amazing fireworks show that weekend in celebration of Independence Day. So we'll look forward to seeing you. Free Talk Live will be there in some form or another. June 27th through July 3rd. Those are the dates for this year. That's June 27th through July 3rd. Go to forkfest.party. And all you need to do to attend Forkfest is just register your campsite, RV site, or your motel room with Rogers Campground. There are no tickets.
Bring a sweater, though, for people who have never been to New Hampshire or who are like, well, it's June, it's July or whatever. Yeah, but
sweater and some long pants for the night times.
It's the mountains in New Hampshire.
Yeah, it gets cold there.
Yeah, it got down to like 30 degrees one year.
It might be 90 or the 80s during the day. Or it might be cool and rainy. You never know what you're going to get. It is a bit of a mix, but you can pretty much count on the nights are going to be cool. Yeah. That's usually a guarantee. All right, let's go back to the phones here. Brandon is calling us from Ohio. Brandon, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's on your mind tonight?
About Bitcoin.
Yes, sir.
I own a small business, and I'd like to accept Bitcoin. So let's say I download a wallet, and they got a wallet, and they just transfer it. Is that how that's done? Like you just hold the wallet over top?
I would recommend using the AnyPay software, I believe. If you're just interested in accepting like Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Dash, the major cryptocurrencies like that, then use AnyPay. It allows you to create an invoice, enter an amount, and it'll pop up as paid when they scan your QR code and send the payment. You can just open your wallet and create the invoice there. Like if you go to Edge and hit the receive button, you can enter the amount, and that will modify the QR code, and then they can just scan that. But AnyPay allows you to do that directly. And
is that what you're looking for? You're looking for a business solution?
Well, yeah, I've been listening to you guys since 2020 or so, when the whole COVID thing happened, and I got told about you guys a while ago, and I should have started listening to you back when I was 10 years ago when I was told about you, but I'm just looking for a way to accept Bitcoin and promote Bitcoin, but promote you guys, like just an easy way to accept something. Hey, you don't have any cash? I don't want to take your credit card because I hate credit card fees.
Right.
So
are you? Do you have a business where you have employees, or is it just you?
It's mainly me and one other guy.
Okay. Yeah, so the solution Aria is giving you is AnyPay. Friends of the show, longtime supporters of AnyPay, really love that product. That's something you want to use for sure if you want the super fastest, easiest point of sale, especially if you've got employees, because you don't want to give an employee access to your bank account, right? You want to give them only a way to receive money for you, and so that's what AnyPay does. It's just a simple point of sale solution. And I think they still have a free tier. I know they've changed their business model in the last year or so. Obviously, I'm not able to use their software under my bail conditions, but I've eyeballed their product from afar, and I've noticed that they have like a 1% tier now, and I don't know if that's something that applies to everybody or what. So I can't say for sure what the deal is with AnyPay these days. But we love their product. They do some great work, and they're libertarians that have done great things in New Hampshire. And Aria recommended to you the Edge wallet. That's a great wallet. It's a mobile phone wallet. There's also Exodus wallet, which is a cross-platform wallet. It can work on like a laptop or a desktop computer in addition to a phone. So those are two of the best ones I've seen.
I got the Exodus right now.
Okay, yeah, that's a great wallet. So it sounds like you're already well on your way, and that should get you to the next step. Any other things we can help you with?
Not tonight, man.
Thanks for the call, Brandon.
Another time.
Appreciate it, dude. Check out it's anypayx, I believe.com is their current website, so check that out.
They changed it quite a bit.
They do change it up.
I liked anypay.global. That was the easiest one to remember.
Let's go to Rob. He is on the line in Vermont. Rob, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, so just kind of want to change the subject a little bit
yes,
here.
Sir.
There's a story that came out of New Hampshire on the 6th of May where former police officer sentenced to prison after pleading guilty in fatal crash.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Prison?
So, yeah, this was on WMER. It says a former Londonderry police officer was sentenced 10 to 20 years in the Hampshire State Prison.
Wow.
For driving drunk and causing the crash that killed a 21-year-old woman.
That's unusual that a cop would go to prison for so long. That's surprising.
It is,
well, he was a drunk driver who murdered someone who was 21 years old. He should be held responsible for that.
I don't think that's murder technically. That's, I believe, involuntary manslaughter, but I don't have the charge in front of me here.
See, I didn't think that, you should be allowed to drive while drunk, I believe. But if you hit someone and kill them, you should be charged with murder, I would think.
Yeah, that's what I agree with, because it's no different than pointing a loaded gun at someone.
It's manslaughter charges. Murder generally is something that is, I guess it's not always premeditated. That's first-degree murder. Second-degree murder is like in the moment. You didn't premeditate it, but you just decided to kill somebody.
But see, my definition of murder includes war and stuff, and theirs doesn't.
Well, right.
Well,
Murder is a legal term.
At least the officer pled out on it.
He did. Thanks, Rob, for the call. There's more coming up.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The White House has warned that the Russian war against Ukraine could drag on with unpredictable outcomes. The warning comes amid heavy fighting in eastern Ukraine, where Russia is seeking to take more Ukrainian territory by force. Here's the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, speaking at a Senate committee hearing.
The next few months could see us moving along a more unpredictable and potentially escalatory trajectory.
Later, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the U.S. needed to prepare for a drawn-out conflict.
He is still fighting the war, and we've seen that on the ground every day. But even as the Ukrainians have had successes, this is going to be a long war, and we need to prepare ourselves for that.
Thousands of people have died as a result of the Russian invasion, and the United Nations says more than 12 million people have been forced to flee their homes. The soon-to-be CEO of Twitter, Elon Musk, has said he will reverse the platform's ban of Donald Trump. Musk called the ban on the former U.S. president a morally bad decision. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
There had already been questions about what Musk's plans to promote free speech on Twitter would mean. Now a tangible answer: the potential return of Donald Trump. He was removed from the social media site following the January 6th riots, with Twitter saying Trump's comments could incite further violence. Speaking at an event hosted by the Financial Times, Elon Musk said the decision to remove the president was a morally bad one and foolish in the extreme. He added Twitter's decision alienated a large part of the country. Trump had around 88 million followers before his removal.
There was a mixed day in Wall Street as the U.S. markets tried to recover from 3 days of losses. Meanwhile, the U.S. president said he's considering dropping trade tariffs on China introduced by Donald Trump. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
The Dow closed down yet again on Tuesday, losing 0.3%. But the S&P fared better, closing up by 0.2%, while the Nasdaq ended the day 1% higher. There was some reprieve for tech stocks that have taken a battering in recent weeks. Both Microsoft and Apple were up more than 1.5%, while Intel closed up more than 2%. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden has said addressing inflation is his top domestic priority, and that he's working with the Federal Reserve to curb the spike that's forced up consumer prices by 8% in the last year. The president also told reporters that discussions are ongoing over potentially dropping trade tariffs on Chinese goods that were introduced by former President Donald Trump. Biden said it could help lower consumer prices.
In other news, the UN's Secretary General has urged officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo to investigate an attack on a gold mine in the northeast of the country that left more than 50 people dead on Sunday. Antonio Guterres expressed his condolences to the families of the victims. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Ian and Aria in the studio here tonight. So, Aria, you have a story we're going to get into about Americans just having a time of their lives. Tens of millions of Americans. Everything's just great.
Yeah, everything's great.
Not a concern for them. And I want to hear this because, we've seen all the bad news. I want to hear a little bit of good news. So do you have it pulled up there? All right.
So this is an era of great political division and dramatic cultural upheaval. Much more quietly, it has been a time of great financial reward for a large number of Americans.
And this is coming from DNYUZ.com?
I don't know who they are. It's something I've seen before.
I've read some of their stuff before, and I still don't know who the hell they are.
This has to be sarcastic, right? It has not been a time of great financial reward for a large number of Americans. That's factually untrue.
Well, they say the billionaires are making more money, Jeff Bezos or
But that's
whatever.
not a large number of Americans.
No, it's definitely not.
For the 158 million who are employed, prospects haven't been this bright since men landed on the moon. As many as half of those workers have retirement accounts that were fattened by a prolonged bull market in stocks. When was this written? It was released today. I don't think they've seen the latest stock numbers.
Yeah, things have been going down recently. I think I saw today, speaking of Bezos, I saw some headline in the last 24 hours saying that all of Amazon's gains have been wiped out.
All of them, yes.
Since since COVID, post-COVID gains, I guess.
I wanted to mention that when we were talking about Bitcoin, or inflation in general, but it didn't come up. Yeah. Bitcoin still has some of its pandemic gains. Amazon does not.
That's right. And Netflix down 70-something%.
Yeah, it's a bloodbath out there. This boom does not get celebrated. At the rate they have been increasing in value, that's owner-occupied homes in the United States, a lot of families are in effect a giant piggy bank. Or, excuse me, a lot of homes are effectively a giant piggy bank that families live inside. This boom does not get celebrated much.
That's a stupid analogy, by the way.
Most of them are still paying off these homes as well. The average person has not paid off their 35-year mortgage and won't for most of their life.
Yeah, and homes don't work like that. It doesn't work to where you just put money into the home and then you take it out later, necessarily. right? Like a piggy bank suggests that it's some sort of reliable savings method, that if you put money in, you break the bank later and all that money's still there. But with a home, you have no idea what's going to happen economically in the next 30 years. Most people get a 30-year loan on a house, right? Certainly, you can count on inflation. It's likely going to continue. So if you get a mortgage that's fairly consistent in what you're paying back over the years, then you can expect that you're going to earn more due to inflation and just due to your general life circumstances, and be more easily able to pay that loan off into the future. Right. That's generally how you expect things to go. And you hope that the value of the home is going to go up, and certainly we've seen that, especially in the last 2 years, with this crazy housing crunch, with people leaving places like California and
yeah, but if you have an adjustable rate mortgage and, the home becomes too valuable, you lose it. The bank's just going to take it because they're like, hey, look, we want to sell your home and we want you to pay $2,000 a month now or whatever. I don't know how these things work, but I know that, if the value goes up too much, the bank can't, if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, they can't just increase the amount of your note effectively. Or you have something like the 2007 housing bubble, which bursts. For all we know, we're in another housing bubble.
Right, and that's the thing. That's where this is not a piggy bank, right? So you can expect that things are going to go up, but it doesn't always play out that way. And a lot of people believe that this is going to be another housing bubble, and that that is going to go away at some point. And then all of a sudden, the double your money that people have done recently in the housing market could go down to half your money at that point. So
similar to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The queasy stock market might be signaling that the boom is ending. A slowing economy, renewed inflation, high gas prices, and rising interest rates could all undermine the gains achieved over the years. But for the moment, the flood of wealth is quietly redefining retirement, helping fuel Silicon Valley.
This isn't a flood of wealth, and this is
an insane piece here.
Yeah, this is so ignorant because, yeah, the prices of the housing market are up, and that to some extent does have to do with supply and demand. So I don't want to take that away from it. I'm not going to say it's all inflation, but you go back and you look at the prices of that house 30 years ago, if it was around, right? If it's not new construction, you look at that price of that house 30 years ago, it's going to be a fraction of what it is today. And so really a lot of this is keeping up with inflation ultimately.
This article would almost be brilliant if they were attempting to take the same facts that the media is always talking about and spinning them, giving people the same facts, but with a completely opposite spin on them. Like this statement here, more than 4.5 million workers voluntarily quit in March.
Yeah, I have that story from RT.
Yeah, however, that's not necessarily a good thing. That's unemployment.
Right.
And, most of the places, news outlets will be told, unemployment increased by this amount or whatever. It doesn't matter that they voluntarily quit. They're still technically unemployed, presumably. And it's just how they're spinning that.
Yeah, that's bad news. They're not quitting their jobs because they are independently wealthy.
Well, they may be, but I tend to think they're probably quitting their jobs to go work somewhere else. To just go have a different job that may be paying slightly better.
Maybe, yeah.
This widespread wealth throws light on why the number of workers who say they expect to be working past their early 60s has fallen below 50% for the first time. They do link to that. So evidently there's a study or a poll or something like that. Look, it doesn't matter to me how delusional the average person is. If they're counting on, some retirement plan or Social Security or their house to be their retirement plan, they're going to be working well into their 70s. Early 60s.
Well, especially as the quality of living goes down, as people's standards of living go down.
Also true.
Which inevitably happens when inflation is in play, and it always is. It's just worse now than it's been in 40 years. That's going to eat away at people's living, and so they're going to have to keep working in order to keep up their lifestyle.
So they talk about these startups known as unicorns, more than 1,000 now, up from 200 in 2015. Yes, there are a lot of startups right now. And they probably won't be here in 5 years.
That's typical of most businesses.
Yeah, I tend to think there are probably fewer startups right now than there really were in like 2019 or that era. I think the era of startups and, kickstarting new companies, that's sort of gone by now, hasn't it?
Well, we know that the Federal Reserve just raised their interest rates recently, and that's going to affect loan rates. So it's going to actually dissuade people from taking out loans a little more so than previously. It used to be there was no 0% or whatever, basis points, I think they call it. It's less than 1% or whatever. But the Federal Reserve had 0 just up until 2022, and now it's at like 0.75 or something like that. And so that's going to affect what rates banks issue loans at. And so people that were thinking about taking out a loan might think twice now.
This article is amazing. Our net worth has reached the millionaire level due to our investments, which was unfathomable when we were married 40 years ago, said Mr. Mackinson, 76, who is retired from the U.S. Forest Service. So they're pointing at millionaires here and saying, look, things are pretty good for the average American millionaire over here. But that's
Venezuela's full of millionaires.
I'm sure it is.
It takes $1 million Boulevard to buy a loaf of bread.
They also point out that, saying that there are 22 million U.S. millionaires. That seems high, but even if we go with that, with 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 being millionaires, I don't think it's that high, but whatever. They go to Miss Mackinson, the wife of the person who was just speaking.
$1 million does not buy today what $1 million in the 1990s would have bought you, or even in the aughts.
No, she says, I used coupons to buy things. One of my daughters would say, Mom, that's so embarrassing, but we believed in saving, and now she uses coupons too.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's not. They're painting out like Americans are, living high life on easy street here. These millionaires, and it's this 66-year-old grandma who's cutting out coupons with her almost 80-year-old husband who is retired from the U.S. government. So, of course, they're doing relatively okay.
The government gets paid real nice.
Yeah, they're government employees, and
he's getting a 90% pension every year.
That means 90% of his salary?
Yeah, 90% of his salary, he's getting that without working.
It's not a bad deal.
If you can get it.
If you can sell your soul.
Yeah, 603-283-6160. Is there more of the propaganda?
There is, but it's just more of that.
We'll get to it. Coming up here, it's Free Talk Live. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means, stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to MyMagicMud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. MyMagicMud.com, FTL20.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Phones are open here if you want to join us in the remaining moments. They're happening now. The number is 603-283-6160. Ian and Aria here tonight, 603-283-6160. We're sharing a propaganda piece from a website called dnyuz.com. And we were just doing a little bit of research.
Because we've used them before here on the show, but this article is weird, man. There's something that's off about it.
Well, what we learned is, number one, I went and I was trying to learn about the site from the site itself. And if you go and scroll all the way to the bottom of the site, there's on the main page there's links to about and advertise, and if you click on that, it just takes you right back to the front, the top of the front page. It goes nowhere. And so I did a little searching, and I found a story that alleges that DNYUZ scrapes popular news sites like New York Times and others, and takes the content from those sites and just reposts it without attribution. And so I checked it, and that's exactly what they appear to do. I just checked it with a different story. I didn't have yours in front of me, Aria, so I wasn't able to do a web search and see from where they got that content. But it appears that DNYUZ does not do their own reporting, nor do they give credit to who does the original reporting. But they do.
I don't really care about that. I don't believe in intellectual property anyway. Once you publish something, you are making it public, and you just
I agree with you in that technically I don't agree with intellectual property, but I do believe in giving attribution. If somebody makes a thing, I think they should get credit for it. But that's just my opinion. You can do what you want, obviously. But so I would like to know who we can blame for writing this particular story. What's the headline?
That's a good question. I just accidentally closed out of it. Now I'm trying to find it in my history, and you know how that is on a mobile browser.
Yeah. So what you were telling us about is a story about Americans just doing great. Everything's totally fine. They're rich. They're riding high on all this house money that the property values have been going up, and it's just a great time for these folks. While in the same time, there's another story here that I have from RT that Gallup has released a poll.
Yours sounds like what most people are actually dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Now, I don't know too many millionaires who are sitting there retired from their government jobs thinking, you know what, this is all pretty good, as they cut out their coupons or whatever before they go to the church on Sundays. But presumably those people do exist. And they're probably doing relatively okay for now. However, the article, which, by the way, did in fact release today, from what we can tell, seems to be running on late information. That they're talking about, stocks are up, everything's doing great. Have you looked at those numbers lately? Because the stocks aren't doing so great anymore. And it could very well be that these people whose investments made them millionaires just a few weeks ago are now going, oh my God, we might lose our house. And for those not keeping score, the bank absolutely will come and take their house. It did it before in the 2007 recession. And considering how we're heading into a recession right now, I would not be at all surprised to find out that a year from now, the banks own even more of people's property.
Well, there's arguments over whether or not we're going into a recession. I'm sure that's a discussion that's going to continue. But
it just depends on how you define recession at this point, I suppose, because, if you are watching the economy at all, it's pretty obvious the economy is not doing good.
More than half of respondents on this Gallup poll that recently was released this week, yesterday in fact, more than half of respondents, 52% in the poll, expressed worries about maintaining their standard of living, a 7-point increase over the previous year. The sharpest rise was seen among those concerned about being able to pay their monthly bills, with 40% of Americans, an 8-point uptick since 2021, expressing worry over those responsibilities. So I talked earlier tonight that there are people who are just on the, they're just barely making ends meet, and having that grocery price go up by 10 or 20% or whatever it may be enough to push somebody into the point where they're not being able to pay the power bill. And now 40% of Americans are saying they are worried about being in that exact situation.
It's rough out there. A year ago, my heating oil costs would have been $600 for the same period that I just spent $1,000. And food costs would have been somewhat decreased or whatever. But now I'm looking at the grocery store. I'm like, we should probably do some actual grocery shopping again, because this eating out thing is getting kind of expensive on top of the increase in the electricity bill.
Well, I'll tell you what, going to the grocery store is more expensive now because, and that's what everybody's noticing. We like to play a little game, Bonnie and I, when we go to the checkout. It's like, all right, well, what's the cart going to cost? Right? Like, what's the total amount going to be? She makes a prediction, I make a prediction. And I always have to raise, like, whenever I look at it and a number comes to mind, I always have to just increase that if I want to have a chance at winning the contest. And so looking at the cart, we're just we're a couple. We don't buy a whole lot of food, so we're there every week, so we don't laud up the cart. But not even covering the whole bottom of the cart is at least $70. And just with one layer of groceries. So so filling the whole bottom of the cart, it's probably going to be at least $100 to do that. And back in a decade ago, $100 would probably fill up half a cart.
Yeah,
So,
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I recently, the breaker flipped and I had to throw out everything in the fridge, which required me to go to this was a few months ago, but it required me to go to the store and, buy all of that basic stuff that you never think to buy, like, the balsamic vinaigrette, salad dressing, that sort of thing that you don't buy very often. But good Lord, it got expensive fast.
More than you thought it was going to be.
Oh, yeah. It was that was a $300-$400 trip to the grocery store, and there wasn't a whole lot of actual food in it. It was just the stuff that you combine with food to make a meal.
Concern had grown by 5 points regarding rent and mortgage payments, credit card bills, and retirement savings. Worries occupying the minds of 35%, 22%, and 63% of poll respondents, respectively. So just to recap that, rent and mortgage payments would be 35% of Americans are concerned about that. Credit card bills, 22%, and retirement savings, 63% of Americans are concerned about their retirement savings. The only financial issues that have remained static were those related to medical bills and paying for their children's education. The poll was conducted in the first 3 weeks of April, and that showed Americans' personal estimation of their finances was similarly dismal and revealed their financial self-image is in a downward spiral amid steep concerns about inflation and the cost of energy. However, medical bills and savings remain the chief concerns for most families. Perhaps unsurprisingly, financial worries among the poor have increased more than the rich. Duh. Nearly 3 in 4 low-income adults, that is 73%, worry about maintaining their standard of living, which is an increase of 17 points from last year. So up a lot, while only 36% of the wealthy share those concerns.
Well, I understand why people are worried about savings and, hospital bills and, medical things You're guaranteed at some point you're going to have some medical bills, right?
It's a guarantee.
That's just a fact of being a human being. And, if you don't have money put back and with which to deal with those things.
And a ton of Americans don't.
They can be devastating. And people do lose their homes and things like that over medical expenses all the time in the United States. And I know people like this who have, there was an unexpected, cancer or whatever, some unexpected surgery that was needed. Next thing you know, these people who have lived in their home for 25 years, this elderly couple, they have to move. They can't afford it anymore. The bank's taking their home or whatever. These things happen every single day. And now they're just happening to more and more people. And they know they're watching their bills get more expensive. They're watching their grocery carts get emptier. And they know that they're not able to put money back as things are. And they know on an instinctual level that
it's going to get worse.
Things are not going to improve. That grocery stop is just going to get more empty. Their bills are just going to get more expensive. And their deficit, the amount that they're losing each week or each month or whatever, it's just going to keep getting bigger until they lose everything. They know it's coming. So, of course, they're stressed. But there's nothing to be done about it except stop using the government's money. This is what governments do when they control the money supply.
Well, don't worry, Arya. The leakers are saying that the CPI numbers, the government official inflation numbers, are going to go down for the first time in months tomorrow. The announcement's going to come out. It's going to be only 8.1%. So the pressure's off. We can party again. It's all going to be okay, folks. Biden's got inflation under control.
That's not going to make those 73% of Americans who are already, stressing and worrying about living paycheck to paycheck and not having savings. It's not going to make them feel any better.
But you better believe Biden and his spokespeople are going to be out on the podiums, patting themselves on the back, talking about how, we're tackling inflation, we're getting it done. They'll be thanking their buddies at the Federal Reserve and acting like we're going to be on easy street from here on out.
Yeah, they're going to be insufferable, aren't they? I didn't realize that. Yeah,
we'll see. And again, that's just what they're saying. We'll get the official numbers tomorrow and talk to you about it then. In the meantime, you can join us between now and then online, and maybe we'll get into what happened in China, the latest on what's happening there with the insane lockdowns that have been going on, because that's something we've been following as close as people can follow it who aren't actually in the midst of it. So that might happen tomorrow too. But certainly we'll talk to you then online. In the meantime, freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture?